program.
Wow, Marvin's
good morning.
wide awake.
Marvin finally came in. Thank you. Thought you were gonna shine us again today. That's okay. So, how are you?
I'm great. I'm
You've
getting
recovered?
back on Florida time, which is nobody cares. They don't care that I'm 2 hours off here. Yesterday when I woke up at 5 a.m.
Which was
7 a.m.
Right.
Okay, so now I'm feeling a little bit better, but you look great. You look a lot sexier today and a lot more comfortable than you did yesterday. I don't know. Maybe,
and why is that?
Well, I don't know. Maybe meeting me for the first time and doing the 4 hours of Neil Rogers for the first time.
Because we had really just met yesterday.
Right.
Last time we met, you were sick. You said, hello, I'm going to throw up. And then you sort of left.
That's it, because it was like 2 days before I left for vacation, and I was just, I really drug in here. And I had to drive all the way back, and I went to bed when I got home, and that kind of thing.
And you drove in cursing me all the way.
No.
Oh, God.
Not at all.
Gotta come down here.
I wanted to collect my paycheck anyway.
Well, good. At least you had incentive. I feel better about that. So Stan Major and I are sitting in for the vacationing Neil Rogers, who, boy, he's gone, and he appears in the newspaper yesterday. Did you see the picture?
I didn't. As a matter of fact, I was surprised when Rick and Suds talked about it, because I don't get the Sun Sentinel anymore.
Well, I was surprised at the length of the article, because Neil mentions he wants to get rid of the pinheads, as he calls them, and it warrants a 2-column or 3-column article in the Sun Sentinel.
Well,
it's a very attractive picture.
Dick is a very big fan of Uncle Neil and a regular guest on the show, so Rick was right about his almost incestuous relationship with...
Well, that's mostly in radio anyway, but so Neil's going to make some minor adjustments, he said. We'll have to figure it out when he comes back.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it really will be interesting.
Because I remember when we worked out at Wynn's, he got on this... campaign about the language thing again.
You mean language, Spanish?
The English-Spanish thing,
okay.
yeah. And that was basically the last big Neil Rogers campaign.
Topic, so to speak.
Yeah. But that was right in the middle of doing all of the things that he does now.
Well, one good thing about Neil, he adapts well and changes well, and everybody seems to, I hate to use the word copy, but if it works for Neil, Al Rantel was quoted in the article as saying, well, basically, he sets the standard for what talk show hosts do.
Al
pretty much says, yeah, I do what Neil does because it works. And that was pretty amusing. But we'll have to see what happens when Neil comes back. By the way, we got phone lines open here. Does Mike take phone calls in the morning? I haven't heard any, does he? Ranieri?
I think he takes occasional
every
phone
once in a while,
calls.
Roger says.
He's very busy. He says he has a lot of things to do.
Well, we've got a reporter from the Herald coming in tomorrow, sitting in with Mike, Juan Carlos.
Oh, is he coming in?
Coming in tomorrow.
He's becoming a Neely also. Isn't that interesting?
Well, that's great, though. I mean, for you and I who work here, that's wonderful. Extra press doesn't hurt. Good press, bad press, whatever. Phone lines are open here, folks. The number's in Dade 761-9463, in Broward 524 WIOD. And this Boca thing is history since
gone.
You've torn off half the numbers anyway, so that's gone. Palm Beach, the number is 655-WIOD, so give us a call this morning. So anybody else you want to drop a bomb on today?
No, but I would recommend that nobody unload lawn, anything connected with the lawn, furniture, or anything, in a lightning storm.
Do you believe that? That's pretty sad.
Wow. Well, they play golf out there in lightning storms.
Not
Have you seen them on the course in Plantation?
Not smart people. And standing under a tree is also a big winner.
With a metal club in your hand. I can't think of anything worse. I mean, that's a lightning rod in your hand.
The trick is to stand in the middle of the golf course and raise it up to the heavens, and you truly become a conductor. Yeah, lightning down here is pretty scary.
Yeah.
Pretty darn scary. The power went out in my house twice. After a while, everything was psychedelic. Everything was glowing. The VCR, the LCDs on all the clocks. The TV went off. The TV went on. It was nuts. So I couldn't watch anything. I started to watch the interview with Fidel Castro.
Oh,
and
yeah,
Ted
the
Turner.
big interview. The puff piece with Ted Turner.
Fidel needs to clean up a bit, you know?
Is he still wearing the same fatigues?
I think he's still wearing the same fatigues from the 50s. I absolutely think he's wearing the same fatigues. needs to get, a haircut and a shave. Basically.
I've always wondered how he had his cigars checked out. You remember the story that somebody was going to put poison in one of his Cuban cigars? This was the CIA mafia plot.
Was this how they were going to get him?
Yeah, this is how they were going to get rid of him.
Poison in the cigars?
And so I've always wondered exactly how each individually wrapped cigar that Fidel sticks in his mouth is checked out before he actually
lights up. Do you think he has an official cigar smoker? Like a food taster? A cigar smoker here?
I think he has to. But anyway, it was interesting that Tanner was doing that this morning. Tanner was into this heavy Mandela thing this morning.
Yeah,
can you believe that?
Yeah, I can, because it's a big issue down here, and a large portion of his audience are Latins.
And now we're seeing, also in the newspaper reports this morning, we're seeing interesting opposition within the Cuban community. Now, the Cuban community seems to be splitting on the Mandela visits.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 5 counties.
So we thought we were going to have one big demonstration out in front. We're going to end up having 2 big demonstrations.
A couple of counties, or cities, I should say, Miami Springs, have come out and said they will not support or sanction Mandela's visit down here. We always seem to get in the news some way. He's been in major cities all over the country, and Miami seems to always get negative.
Yeah. Well, he's addressing a joint session of Congress this morning, and there's some people who are going to either walk out or not show up.
Boycott.
So, his words the other day are kind of, if he had a public relations man in New York City, a public relations person would be going out of their gourd right now. Why did you say that? You had this country in the palm of your hand, and you walked in and you said that.
We've got some theories on that. We'll take some callers on that. We've got to take a break at 10:12 at WIOD. We'll be back.
Miami Heat.
We're back. We're back on a Tuesday.
Is that what it is?
So do you normally, have you ever worked in your career with another co-host?
Not per se. No. I really haven't. No, I've always wanted to. In fact, when I was at Wynn's, we used to bring people in and audition them on the air.
Did you really?
Which
off the streets or with any
anybody that walked by, anybody happened to be in Carroll City at the time, come on in and
Right.
But that soon ended when they told me straight out that they didn't have the budget to have a sidekick. And that's about the time that the Bird worked into the sidekick thing with Neil.
And worked into it really well.
Well, it worked, for a while, and then things happened.
Hope he saved his money.
Yeah. I wonder where he is today.
I don't know. I heard a lot of rumors he was working up in Lakeland, but I'm not quite sure what he's doing. Let's take this call here. It's been on a while. Wilton Manors.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rand Stan Show. Hey, Stanley.
What?
How you doing?
I'm here.
Hey, I got a question for you.
What's the question?
What's the question? While you're doing the daytime show, if there's an opening in the evening where the New York Yankees aren't losing or something like that, are you still doing the evening shows, or what's the scoop here?
No, G. Michael McKay was on last night, and I completely forgot about it, and I didn't turn the radio on. I'm sorry. I was going to turn the radio on to see what the show sounded like, but so I'm very embarrassed by the fact that I didn't do that. What was I doing last night?
You wasn't even listening to your own show, huh?
No, not listening to the radio. But that's nothing new.
I hear you. So, Stanley, tell me, is Randy, she a hot babe, or what the heck is going on here,
A fabulous babe, sir.
Yeah, she's a fabulous
She is.
Fabulous babe.
Much more relaxed today than she was yesterday. She looks great, and looks like she got a nice a nice bit of rest overnight.
I had to. The power went out in my house last night.
Nothing else to do.
Nothing else to do. Couldn't read anything.
Especially in Plantation.
Well, that's good. Well, I tell you, it's a pleasure and a privilege to be the very first caller of the day on the Rand Stan Show. You guys are doing a great job. And
we appreciate it, sir.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
See you later. Bye.
Sounds like a guy who'd like to be on radio. Neil has a lot of those.
How do you get that impression?
The Rand Stan Show.
Oh.
The way they lower their voice, and pretend they're a radio announcer.
Being clever. Well, we used to do that growing up, too. Pretend. We got a mobile on line 5.
How you doing, Stan and Randy?
Great. How are you?
I can't complain. Stan, I'm listening to Brian Ferry. I figured you'd like that one.
Yeah, right. Do you know that I heard Do you know who Brian Ferry is, Randy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm listening
And he
to him.
isn't played down here at all.
I know. Can you believe that?
There's a lot of things not played down
Do
here.
you have that?
that's
Do you
right.
have the album that Bet Noidier or what is it?
Yeah, I've got that.
That's
Maybe
pretty
we'll
good.
even talk to Tanner, who's coming in sometime this morning,
Yeah, ask him
about how
that.
hard it is to get new records played down here in
That's true. I wonder why.
Miami.
Oh,
They
let's
can't-
ask him how he selects his records, whether or not a consultant does it for him.
No, they flip a coin. They flip a coin.
They probably do, or darts sometimes.
I got to tell you a Brian Ferry story. I'm sitting in a terrible restaurant in Colorado Springs at the mall called the Red Robin, which is like a Fridays, but it's not a Fridays. Okay,
I hope
but
Neil isn't listening about you picking another terrible restaurant.
yeah, right. It was really horrible. And I hear "Slave to Love" by Brian Ferry playing on the system.
Uh-huh.
And that's the first. I've never heard a Brian Ferry record in a restaurant while I've been
No, I
eating.
heard it in my hair salon, but anyway, go ahead.
In your hair salon?
Where is
Where I
your
cut
hair
my
salon,
Where
sir?
I cut my hair.
Oh, I see. Well, I thought you were cutting hair.
No.
Oh, okay. Hey, that's a big business, you know. That's a good business to get into. I
Oh,
might
hell
do
yeah.
Hair cutting?
Hell
Yeah.
We'll call you Mr. Stan.
that.
lot of money.
Mr. Stans.
Mr.
Can I say a poem for both of you guys that I
A
got?
poem?
A poem, yeah.
A poem, sure.
Randy and Stanley went up the hill both with $1.25.
Oh,
Randy
God.
came down with $2.50.
I don't think we want to hear that one. But we do appreciate you trying to be clever. 1019 News Talk.
Now, where
Radio
was that guy
610.
yesterday when I needed the care package?
Yeah, right. You know, speaking of which, care package, Salman Rushdie donated $8,000, is it, toward the relief fund for the Iranians.
Can you imagine the reaction to that when they find out in Iran?
Yes.
They'll probably ship everything back that's
Oh,
coming
no, are
in.
you kidding? They'll say, give us money. Because that's what they want. They want money.
Wow.
He said, strictly for humanitarian reasons, he'll,
And he
even
didn't,
though there's still a price on his
he
head.
didn't put his return address on
What was it? $100,000 or ruples or whatever the hell, camels to get him. Get him? What the heck? Miami, good morning.
Yes, and good morning, Stan, Randy.
Good morning.
Morning. You were saying a few minutes ago you were wondering why Mr. Mandela said what he said. Well, I can give you Mr. Mandela's situation in 2 words. He is a terrorist, and he's a communist.
Well, it's an interesting point, sir. A lot of people have
and
said
also something else you don't know.
he's also been in prison for 27 years, so he's in a major time warp there.
Well, the point is, he is around terrorism. He's around murder. He is a communist. He aligns himself to AC, and that ACN
African National Congress, right?
is aligned with the communists. Also, something else you didn't know, and I guess a lot of people didn't know until I found out, that our president gave your tax money to Mr. Mandela. $10 million
$10
was
million.
appropriated, I think it was 10 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
$10 million was given to this organization, was given to Mr. to Nelson Mandela. And I've talked to a lot of people, and they never even knew about it. And they're they're very upset that the government of the United States gives money to terrorists and communists when they're supposed to be a democratic country. As simple as that. I don't go for apartheid either. Okay, I thought Mr. Mandela was what he was made out to be, but now he puts his foot in his mouth by aligning himself with Gaddafi and with Fidel Castro and the rest of these.
Well, he'll align himself with anyone who supports his cause.
Well,
anyone. I mean, I don't think there's anyone he doesn't support.
But the point is, he's not democratic. He's not a democratic individual. I mean, there's points been brought out that he and his group have murdered blacks in South Africa.
Oh, I know that.
Well,
right.
I mean, anybody like that, forget it. Listen. I'm not Cuban. I don't involve myself with the Cuban situation. But as far as Mr. Mandela, I think what we should have done down here is just tell him we don't need you, Mr. Mandela, and that AFSCME, that labor organization. Thank God I don't belong to that organization. I would personally go there and turn in my card because I don't want my union money going towards somebody who was a communist and a terrorist. Simple as that.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It's interesting
it
that
is.
this particular organization has supported Mandela financially in the past, and that's the reason he's coming down
Do you
here.
know how much money he's making at every stop? I mean, he's collecting big checks to bring back to Africa. He says to support his organization, African National Congress, and a lot of it is going to buying weapons.
You know what scares me? It's the possibility that his appearances in this country are just basically a facade. It's moderation presented. He happened to open his mouth and say the wrong thing at the wrong time. And after he collects all this money and he goes back, then what happens?
Well, that's
We're going to have bloodshed in the streets?
Absolutely.
I mean, this guy could end up back in jail,
bloodshed in the streets. No, I don't think so. I don't think he's going to end up back in jail. They can't possibly do that to him anymore.
Well?
I think he definitely should be recognized as a human rights leader. I mean, for being in jail for 27 years, believing in what he's believed in, and kept that fire burning. I certainly don't think he's on the same scale as a Martin Luther King, though.
No.
I mean, and he gets a ticker tape parade in New York. On the Nelson Mandela tracking map, he's in Washington, then Atlanta, and then he comes down here on Thursday, which should be an interesting adventure. 10:24, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back.
That's horrible.
They're selling all sorts of things during the tour, which, again, are going toward the African National Congress. The
Any Winnie Mandela outfits?
No Winnie, thank goodness. I don't think that that'll catch on. She's certainly not a fashion plate, as they say. Satin tour jackets, $50. T-shirts, 2 different styles, mind you, $20 a pop. Actually, that's cheaper than Paul McCartney T-shirts. That was like $32. A Nelson Mandela sweatshirt for $29. Baseball cap or a Nelson. Did you see him walking around in Washington with his New York Yankees cap on and jacket? You can buy windshield decals for $3. Buttons for $3.
That's
Silver
incredible.
coins.
I didn't know they were doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
They were writing poems and songs about this guy when he was in prison. Now we can buy T-shirts, jackets, hats.
Right. A Nelson Mandela
T-shirt. Tell you, that's the American way.
That is the American way, absolutely. That is the American way. So out of the $20, 10 goes to Nelson and 10 goes to the American way of life.
I saw a real example of the American way of life out in Colorado at the Air Force Academy. The gift shop. Now, they have a huge gift shop. And guess what they have in there? All of the things that you could possibly want to buy for your wardrobe. Okay. Everything. You name it. Oh,
in khaki colors or?
Well, blue and silver and hats and jogging outfits. I mean, you don't have to go to Jordan Marsh or to Burdines or any place. Just go to the Air Force Academy, pick out your whole wardrobe. I didn't see any dresses. That they didn't quite go that far.
I don't think
it was huge.
That those guys would look too great in dresses. But
no, I don't think.
By the way, do you know that the armed forces have banned 2 Live Crew? We'll talk about that.
Really?
From being sold in their stores or played on the base.
Oh.
And someone said, "Well, that's ridiculous. It's not like those guys haven't heard those words before."
Well, the military is very interesting. They're very uptight about stuff because I was with AFN in Germany. When Elvis became very popular. This is before he went into the Army. He had a lot of hit records, and they didn't play any Elvis records. We didn't play any Elvis records.
That rock and roll.
We didn't have any bad rock and roll.
That rock and roll and Satan.
That's it.
I'll tell you.
That's
They'll
it.
get
and
you.
it's the same thing all
Every
over
time.
again, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. It's really interesting how that's coming around. They really have to recognize the fact that rap music is its own art form altogether. They just don't know how to deal with it.
So Bill Tanner will be here from Power 96.
Bill's going to come in. I think Don Cox and Mark Moseley.
Yep. And then a little later on, we'll have
Mindy
from Mindy Frumkes from
the Mindy and Malo show.
Right.
From Hot 105. So it should be quite a morning right here at 610 WIOD. Let's take this caller in Miami.
Hello, Randy.
Good morning.
Hello, Stan.
How are you, dear?
I don't know if you remember me. I used to use a nickname called Dancing Queen because we both like ABBA so much.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a long time since I've heard you.
The Dancing Queen, what did you say? What was your nickname?
Nickname was Dancing Queen. It's my CB handle because ABBA was very popular.
Yeah,
okay.
She was very into ABBA. And somebody walked out of here with my CD that I had.
Of ABBA?
ABBA.
You haven't. You'll live through it, Stan. Trust me.
I don't think so.
You'll live through it.
It's difficult to get them.
And
get the
rightly
CDs
so.
and the because they don't seem to keep very much of it in stock, even though they're still very popular. The music.
Where?
in Europe.
Oh, okay. What's up, Dancing Queen?
A little this, a little that. One thing I wanted to comment on the last caller that you had that was talking about Mandela is that I don't agree with everything that he had to say, Mandela had to say, but you've got to understand his position, being in jail, looking out from barbed, wire.
No, I understand that. I agree with you there.
And
After
the other part of it is that the people that he spoke about didn't hesitate to
give them aid,
be supportive of him, and yet this country sat on the fence, and we're supposedly the human rights people and all this, and yet we were sending money into South Africa and closing our eyes to what was going on over there. And I mean, we had a two-sided vision here.
I think the United States is a real shaky position at this point. Just my own observations. First of all, you have a minority-ruled government over there. White people are ruling the government. The majority is blacks, and they've really kept the blacks down big time. And now the decision is, how do they integrate them into the system? How do they put them into the government without losing at least a bit of control? And they're pretty shaky here. They've gone into towns. They've helped the economy. The white folks help the economy, build a town, and now the question is, how do they give it over to the blacks without losing control? And I mean, we did the same thing with the American Indians here. We sort of pushed them out of their homeland, and how do you give it back to them? That's a big problem. The United States is not one to come up with solutions in this situation.
And the other part of it is that Mandela, by coming here and going around and making these speeches and talking to the different leaders at different levels, is showing that he doesn't hold a grudge against us for our policy. And we should think, and
why should he hold a grudge against somebody that gives you $10 million?
Well, the other part is that he at least came over here with his hands open.
To collect checks.
Yeah.
Well, that's coming from people. That's their choice. They were sending money over there anyway.
See, the thing that bugs me, though, is the fact that he has been booked by an organization which is not based in this area. He's been booked to speak in this area, and his appearance here is simply going to, again, divide the ethnic community in this area. And that, I don't know how, under the First Amendment, people have a right to book him, man has a right to speak. But, boy, I just wish that it was in Boston or someplace, because here you have you've already got the divisiveness.
But he was in Boston.
And we already have such parochial attitudes in Miami that we only listen to what we want to hear.
I mean, he stands for a wonderful thing. It's a horrible, deplorable condition in South Africa. Awful. Has to be changed. I don't know how, though. I don't think he does either. That's the problem.
But at least to have the dialogue is a big step.
Well, he's starting it.
It's interesting, in his little speech, in his retort to Bush yesterday, when Bush was quoting Dr. Martin Luther King about the nonviolence thing, and then Mandela came back and said, wait a minute, I'm paraphrasing very loosely here. If you're oppressed and you have to do some things that maybe you don't normally want to do, which is interesting because in his support of Fidel Castro, there's a lot of oppression in Cuba. So is he advocating then the oppressed people in Cuba to arm themselves and fight against the government, which is exactly what he's saying about South Africa?
Well, he certainly doesn't point that out. Or
Nope.
He likes the fact that the Cuba and the PLO are giving him support, money, whatever they're giving him. He'll take it from anyone at this point in time.
But also he was looking back over the fact that Israel was sending money into South Africa and selling them arms and things against, like when they weren't supposedly that wasn't supposed to be being done, and we were sending money, and it wasn't until 1985 that we voted about sanctions. That's only 5 years ago.
Yeah, we did drag our feet for some time.
And it doesn't really say much for, supposedly we're supposed to be this big democratic ideal, and that but we will still support people and governments that
yeah, look
have
what Bush
suppression.
is doing with China.
Right.
China, and it happens in Central America.
All right, Dancing Queen, thanks for your thoughts. That's very, very nice.
Guy
I missed
likes
him.
you, I can tell.
I missed him. He wasn't here yesterday. In Boston, you were just talking, he was there. There were dinners for Mandela, $5,000 a plate. California, reception tickets were $1,000 to $50,000. A guest of honor in New York, $5,000 to $25,000 a plate. Does that mean you get a sandwich for $5,000, and for $25,000 now you get, prime rib?
Yeah, right.
Or something like that? Is that how it works?
Probably. All cold. By the time you get around
I guess so. Good morning, Hollywood.
Yeah, hello.
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 Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. First of all, let me tell you, I miss you in the morning.
Oh, thank you.
My morning drive is not the same.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Mandela.
Yes.
This guy, well, first of all, let me tell you, I have been to South Africa. I have relatives, big family in South Africa. I talk to them all the time. Mandela's a communist. He is a bitter, hateful, miserable human being who lies with every breath that he takes. His wife is probably worse than he is. They live in one of the townships called Soweto.
Mm-hmm.
The little house that they always show you is not his house.
Mm.
He had a house which was, for Soweto, fairly large. They were building, he was in jail at the time, Winnie was having a castle built across the street from which they presently, where they were living at the time. But I mean a huge mansion. That they never show you. We never hear, first of all, let me tell you, apartheid is bad.
Horrible.
Horrible.
Deplorable.
It really is. But it's not as bad as we're led to believe in many instances.
Sure it is. You've got a government run by a minority, minority race.
Let me just tell you. It's wrong. I don't question this. But when you go into the big cities like Johannesburg, blacks go into restaurants along with the whites. The blacks stay in the same hotels.
The government does not have one black member.
No. No. Forget the government for a minute. We'll get to that. They live, I'm not racist. They live in the same hotels. They walk the same streets. They are not stopped for passports, which we are led to believe has just happened. This has been going on for years now. In some of the small cities, like being back in Nazism, there's just, the blacks are like, they're total slaves in small towns.
So the question is, sir, how do we get rid of apartheid? What's the solution?
If I knew, I would be a very wealthy man.
That's right. That's the question. I don't think anybody knows. I don't think he knows either.
He doesn't. There are people there, what's his name, Bordelaise, who's the head of the Zulus, which is the largest tribe in Africa, who's much more moderate. Mandela has set down certain rules that he said the white government have to follow in order for him to sit down and talk with them. He wants everybody released from prison. He wants all restrictions lifted.
He wants a lot of things.
He wants a lot of things.
Right.
He has no right, because he has no government standing, to set down the rules that have to be followed.
Well, sir, you don't ask, you don't get.
Well, you could ask, but you don't say that this is the way it must be. You ask. You sit and you talk about where are you going to go.
Okay. Interesting point.
Another interesting thing, somebody who has faded into the bar background is Desmond Tutu, who basically is a nonviolent person. And now we have the Mandelas who are out in front.
Yep.
So what's going to happen when he brings all his guns and stuff?
What happens? People will get shot.
People are going to get killed.
Right, exactly.
The last time I was in Johannesburg, a couple of years ago, we were leaving Johannesburg to go up to Pretoria, which is a terrible city, by the way. Apartheid, that's the capital. Apartheid up there was in full force. I mean, it was awful. But we were leaving Johannesburg, and I don't know, 10 minutes after we left the city, there was an explosion right near one of the hotels, outside one of the government police buildings. It blew diamond stores, jewelry stores, buildings out, hotels out. It was a huge explosion. Censorship, of course, in the newspapers, people don't know about it. They call people, friends or relatives or whoever they know within that area to find out what happened. But these bombs really don't accomplish anything. They just kill innocent people.
Well, it sounds like the
Sounds like
Israel,
the IRA.
Right, exactly. And the PLO.
That's exactly what the ANC is. And this guy comes in and tells our president that he's going to teach him about apartheid and and the story that goes on in South Africa. That's nonsense. And as far as, let me just give you another instance.
Sir, I've got to take a break here. You want to hang on?
Sure.
Okay, hang on. All right, we'll take a break. 10:41. Come back. Don't forget around 11 o'clock, I guess. Bill Tanner, Don Cox, Mark Moseley from Power 96 will be in, and we'll continue on 610 WIOD.
Martin and Stan Major on News Talk Radio 610 WIOD.
I think we should just keep playing that song.
Isn't that great? Boy, are we heavy this morning.
More mics in here?
You know, I think there's a big contest going. This is fascinating about all the hype, the T-shirts, the satin jackets, and everything. So we have a big contest going as to who has the most hype, the new Tom Cruise movie, which opens today, or the Mandela tour.
Oh, it'll be tough.
I think they ought to have, like, rock and roll shirts for, the Wilson Mandela tour of 90. Something like that. Nelson Mandela tour.
Well, we have Nelson Mandela satin jacket.
Yeah.
$50 there.
Be great.
Not bad. Tom Cruise was on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. I guess Nelson's got to make the cover of it.
He'll be there next, obviously.
Are we jaded here? I mean, here is a man representing the spirit of human rights.
No.
The fact that people want to be free.
Well, what are we buying here with a satin jacket? Are we buying $50 with a satin jacket? Does that buy ammunition to blow away people in South Africa?
I'm sure a part of it does. Because he does not, he believes in violence. To get, the end justifies the means, that type of thing. Or the means justifies the ends. He is not a non-violent man. I'm not sure that's the way to go, though. And neither is President Bush.
Well, now that we had the Cuban community split in Miami on Mandela's appearance, so what we can have is we can have them printing up T-shirts out in front.
You think they'll be very vocal out in front, as they say?
I don't know. Somebody's holding a news conference today. Cubans in favor of Mandela's appearance is holding a news conference today.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm absolutely serious.
We'll get a news update on that one. Let's check out this line in Miami. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Well, not too good in this moment.
What?
Because I'm listening to the Mandela debate.
Uh-huh.
The only good thing is that you and Stan seem to be doing it pretty right and keeping it above the table. But the other people are just...
What other people, sir? Well, what are you talking about? Give us an example here. We're confused.
It's the feeling... It's the feeling of knowing that by being from Liberty City, I don't have to go far to see oppression. And knowing that, I don't believe in terrorism or whatever. But I believe in something because I'm here. And to have people that's angry and upset, and he's a racist and he's a this, they're just missing the entire point.
What is the point? Tell us.
A man was imprisoned 27 years of his life. He's fighting oppression, minority rule, and I just feel real negative about Miami and the way it's dividing us because, I have a lot of Latin friends and a lot of whatever, other friends and things, and I don't want to be angry with them because of who they are, but I find myself easily being able to find that anger inside because it's by living in Miami, like I said, but when I live in Liberty City, it's like maybe there is something to it, being oppressed and having this feeling. And this anger, it's okay to be angry and to want to strike out against something, for our condition and I'm not saying me as an individual.
Right, but, what does that get you, or what does that get the community by striking out? What does it do?
Sometimes it makes me feel closer and more informed and if it's possible blacker, not Americanized, but just right with my roots. You know what I'm saying? It's like I live out in the Fontainebleau area and the wife loves it, but I hate it. Because I like to smell barbecue or hear a little gunfire in the air or see people playing cards. I enjoy that. You know what I'm saying?
You run right down to Liberty City every time
I'm
some
from Liberty
cop
City.
gets off scot-free, huh?
I'm from there. You know?
Yeah, but don't you agree with me? You think this is good for the community, for this outside group that's holding its national convention to sponsor him in here?
Well, that's a good point, because what it leads to me.
I mean, if their convention was being held in Phoenix, we wouldn't hear another thing about this. But it happens to be held here. Which means that Mandela's coming here. He's already spouted the crap about Castro and the PLO. So immediately he's got two huge groups
against him,
which are going to react.
Well, of course.
And then within those groups, you're going to have people react.
I don't think anybody's disputing the fact that of his struggle, of the 27 years he was in jail, the fact that he still remains true to the ideals that he once held and still does. But the solutions he's offering are not very palatable.
Let me say answer Stan's question, because that brings me to the black community, our so-called leaders, these people, and they're not my leaders. I don't know who selected these people. Why our lives can't go on?
They're self-appointed.
You know, why our lives can't go on? If the Cuban community don't support it, so what? Or if the Jewish community don't support it, so what? Why we can't have our own parade in Liberty City? Why do we have to make it an issue?
Who said you can't?
Well, I'm saying we won't. I mean, none of them will stand up and say something intelligent like what you two are doing. I mean, these people, why aren't they being quoted in the news by saying, well, we're going to go on as a community and do da-da-da. You know, it's like as though they don't even know what to say, because they really have nothing to say.
The only black leader I've heard being quoted around town is the leader of the NAACP.
Oh, well, she's good.
She's very good.
She's good.
She's very sharp, but she's the only one.
We have some positive people, and I will be there Thursday at the park. But it's perfect for us, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. You know, as a people, he doesn't need to have acceptance from all of the other groups. But we, as a group of people here in Miami, it pisses me off that our leaders seem like, our males especially, if it's a riot, then they can talk. But anything else, like economics, or they could talk about drugs, but economics and
well, that comes with education, sir.
They have nothing to say on these things. Nothing intelligent to say. And that bothers me.
Well, that bothers me too, and it should bother you. It should bother your community.
And that's why, you know, I don't want to become emotional about this, because I think you and Stan are handling it perfect. You're saying what I would want to say in an intelligent type way. Only difference is I may become a little more emotional. Like with that last caller, I may call him a racist and tell him to shut up or something like that every now and then.
Well, listen, we appreciate your thoughts.
All righty.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
There's another aspect that's going to be very interesting, and that's going to be the television coverage of not Mandela,
but the community reacting to Mandela.
Right, because the TV stations here in South Florida have this propensity to cater to the Cuban community. And they're going to find themselves in a difficult position, because a lot of blacks are already upset. Mm-hmm. And if they pull this usual stuff that the Herald and that a couple of the TV stations are known for with regard to the Cuban reaction, quote. And that's why I'm glad to see the split in the Cuban community, because now what you've got is you're going to have the television news folks who are going to have to be on their toes to make sure they don't give a slanted version of this whole thing.
But we know that won't happen.
I wish
she knocks the mic off here. It's 10:52. A lot of callers to get to. We will do that after this break.
I'm taking what they're giving because I'm working for it. And postcards of Rochester, New York to send to his mom, or working out on the Nautilus machine at the local health center. But Neil is on vacation. Filling in for Neil this week, Randi Martin and Stan Major on News Talk Radio 610 WIOD.
I'd like to see Neil working out on the local Nautilus. I think that would be quite a sight, don't you?
I got a feeling that Neil is not where he told everybody he was going to be.
Really?
Yeah.
You think he is in Hollydale then?
I'm not going to say where I think he is, but from what he told me where he was going to go, I think he probably spent a couple of days there and went someplace else.
And because you said he doesn't like the cold, and it's cold there.
Well, you know, let's not go any further than that.
Oh, people are really going to know where he is by finding out cold.
Henry had to buy new suits. Did you have to buy new suits, or did you have the pants taken in, Henry?
Why, is
You
Henry
had
fading
everything
away?
taken in? You're that kind, huh? You don't just go down to the store and pick out new suits? Because you look good. Well, I wish I could lose 2 pounds and look that good.
It's all in how you dress. 10:57, good morning. This is Randi Martin along with Stan Major sitting in for the vacationing Neil Rogers. We've got some calls coming up here before we get into news time. Miami Shores.
Hello?
Hello?
I'm calling about the Nelson Mandela thing.
The Nelson Mandela thing.
Specifically the Hispanic community and their protests. I heard in the news they're even talking about rallying when he comes into town. And I believe one of the guests said, should he have come to Miami? I think it's the perfect place to come to, especially with our problems that we have in the community. It seems the Hispanic community only wants to speak out on issues when it really concerns their point of view. When Orlando Bosch, the whole thing was going on with him, they didn't see any shame of coming out to march for his support. You know?
That's a great point. I was going to bring Bosch up, and I'm glad you did.
That's a great idea.
You know, and as a black college student, it becomes very obvious how the whole little system works. It's all right to speak out against Nelson Mandela and his supposed terrorist actions, but when it comes to Orlando Bosch, it makes you wonder, is it all right to bomb a couple of people out of the sky because, well, you know, that's not your point of view, and they didn't have your point of view, so it's all right. It's for the freedom of Cuba.
Oh, that's patriotism.
You know?
Right, exactly. That's patriotism. And he was in jail simply because they couldn't find a country to take him.
Right. And now it's our responsibility to take in a man who the government says he had something to do with it. But so the Cuban community.
But you can understand people getting upset with his comments about Fidel.
Oh,
I mean, you can understand that.
Definitely. But let's put it this way. Let's say you knew me as a personal friend and I did something for you that really helped you. You know, someone else tells you that I've been doing something else, which might not stand up to, you know, your morality or something. Are you supposed to hate me? I mean, how are you going to, you know, base that opinion? The Cuban community seems to forget he's been in jail for 27 years. He hasn't been visiting Fidel. You know, his main, you know, worry was on his country. He wasn't around visiting dignitaries in other countries.
Well, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. We appreciate your thoughts. We've got to take a break here. Henry Barrow with the news, and then we've got a whole studio full of people coming up next. 610 WIOD.
News Talk Radio 610 WIOD presents The Neil Rogers Show. Filling in for the vacationing Neil Rogers are Randi Martin and Stan Major. To get in touch and talk, call 751-WIOD in Dade. Broward is 524 WIOD. In the Palm Beaches, 655 WIOD. The opinions expressed by the guests, hosts, or callers are not necessarily those of the station. Now for Neil Rogers, here's Randi Martin and Stan Major.
I figure being in radio so long, I'm deaf. I can't hear anymore. Without headphones, I got to crank this up real loud. Well, we're joined in the studio by Bill Tanner, Mark Moseley, Shirl V from Power 96.
Well, we're glad to be here. And yeah, it is sort of, you see, you have kind of like this ghostly echo in this room.
We like that. We like that. Is that too loud, Mark? Okay. We like that. Well, thanks for joining us.
The Too Loud Crew.
Exactly, the Too Loud
Crew.
Crew.
Right there, Tanner, watch it. I'll have to arrest you
I'm
there.
sorry we brought Sheriff Nick along
That's
with
right,
us.
you're all under arrest.
Police the Moral Patrol.
One downtown.
America's beloved morals
I have a
watchman.
problem with I can't understand a word he says. Which is pretty much,
Arrest that woman.
I'm going to arrest you as soon as the news crew gets here.
I can't wear my
wearing, is that a tonga?
A tonga. I wonder, did you hear this nightclub, is it Facade, is going to have a tonga party where people can wear their tongas? I wonder if the sheriff will be there to arrest them.
He's been there before. Well,
No, it wasn't
before?
at Facade, it was at Futura.
He'll have to arrest me because I'm gonna host.
You're going to be wearing a tonga.
I'm gonna host it.
Oh.
In a tonga.
In a tonga. Stan Major.
No, they didn't.
And they should arrest you.
Then they have to double the price.
You You know,
I saw you on the CBS Evening News the other day.
Yeah, there I saw myself. One day I was watching the news. It was one of these things where I had already seen the ABC news at 6:30, and so I really wasn't interested in the news, but the people were hooking the cable up.
Yeah.
So they flipped it over to Channel 6 and caught the 7 o'clock news, and all of a sudden I came on out of file footage.
And what did you say? Or just a disc jockey?
The first quote was pretty good. I said that that Donna Summer's Love to Love You, Baby was like an 8-minute orgasm. And CBS selected that, and my mother said, "Did you have to say that on national television?"
That's right. That's right.
And then I don't remember what the second was. It was highly insignificant, like most of what I've said in my career.
We were just talking about Nelson Mandela all morning, and you were doing it on your show this morning also.
It was the hot topic on our show this morning.
Probably will be again tomorrow.
It was, I think, one of the fairest, most balanced sides. We have a very Hispanic audience. About 2/3 of the listening is Latin, and but there were a number of Cuban listeners who were calling in saying, well, you know, there is we don't agree with him, and we don't agree with his comments about Castro and Gaddafi and Arafat, but we do think that he has a right to be heard and make his statements. So it was more.
It's a lot of people who remember the way Cuba was the day, the way before Cuba was, and they say we don't want it that way again.
Yeah.
We don't believe them, but let them go ahead and speak.
But it seems to be that some of the older Cubans, and I say this sort of as a generalization, I may be treading on dangerous ground here, but it seems like some of the older Cubans are the ones that are so bent on suppressing anyone who doesn't agree with what they say.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger
which happens
Cuban
to be a lot of
community.
people in government.
Yeah, very true. Well, of course, and this swings very neatly into this whole 2 Live Crew issue here of you have people playing to the voting public, which is old and conservative. And people will call talk shows like this one all day long, and they will call my show, and they will raise hell on the air, but ask them the last time that they went to vote, and you'll find an awful small minority
Good point.
of
Do you think this 2 Live Crew has died down? The issue has died down a lot?
What did the polls say? 1/3 of the public is there.
Right, exactly. There was a poll in the Fort Lauderdale News or the Sun Sentinel or something like that.
It was kind of hard to, because
people
I
are
found
tired
myself,
of hearing about it.
like you said, stand on television defending it, and so you find yourself in the position of, well, gee, am I really defending what they're saying? And the answer is no, I'm defending their right to say it. And a thought came across on our air this morning that I thought was worth repeating, and that is that the system is supposed to, I think, work that you can, it's a free country, it's free speech, you can get out, and the marketplace of ideas supposedly will shake out. And the best ideas will come to the top, and that's the way it's supposed to run. So that's what the society is all about, tolerating dissent. You may not agree with the person, but you should agree with their right to dissent. And you're talking about, here's an interesting thought to throw out, we were talking about in the car coming down listening to you guys. Mandela will not renounce violence, right?
Right.
Well, was the Boston Tea Party a nonviolent act or what? Yeah,
that's a good point.
This, 10 years ago on Y100 when I was on in the morning, I talked to this guy. I can't call his name. What's his name? Posner, Vladimir Posner. Mm-hmm. And at that time, he was really spouting the Soviet line. It was right after Afghanistan. And I said to him, sir, we have this problem with you just invading another country. Can you expect Americans not to be upset? And then he went on and said, well, what if Mexico was falling and their government called your government and said, please come help us, and you saw chaos about to descend on your southern border? What would you do? And then he said an interesting point. He said, yes, we are a revolutionary society, and I believe yours is too.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I can't fight him on that point.
Yeah, and so...
well, what bothers me, Bill, is what's the next target then?
Oh, boy, I know.
Is it Eddie Murphy?
Well, yeah. Navarro...
Or I assume because of the racial overtones
Let's
that
talk
it'll be
about
Andrew Dice Clay this time.
Did you hear Navarro say that he does not find anything else in the record stores obscene, but that he won't act until he has a complaint? That is the legal thing.
Well, he won't act till he gets a court order to act.
Let's go buy an Andrew Dice Clay album and complain about it and see what happens.
Well, complain to who, though?
Nick. I guess.
But Nick can't take the initiative unless he has a court order to
Nick
do
can do
so.
anything as long as the cameras are there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Absolutely
I
right.
forgot.
If we have two live crews. Now, when I say 2 live crews, I'm talking about 2 live news crews, 2 live camera crews. If we have that, then
with
we
makeup,
can go ahead.
or without.
Well, I have a makeup man that rides with me at that patrol car now.
And he's doing a real bad job, excuse me for saying so.
Yeah, right.
I told him he's not supposed to comb my eyebrows together. Comb them to the side. You know, we have actually hidden miniature cameras in my eyebrows before when we did Cops one time.
Well, you know, G. Michael McKay, who's doing your night show while you're doing the midday show here, his telephone operator, Fredette Applebaum, actually has had a fantasy love affair for years with Nick Navarro because she goes from in with one eyebrow.
That's too
I've
bad.
had small children get lost in my eyebrows.
Really too bad.
They've been lost for
Well, let me
days
ask you
in
this, Bill or Mark, Cheryl, Stan. We're all in,
Or Sheriff Nick.
Or Sheriff Nick. We're all in some sort of show business here. How much show business is involved with 2 Live Crew and
A
Sheriff
lot of
Nick?
show and a lot of business.
Yeah.
More business
I mean, I heard and saw him on Geraldo, and I don't think he put over too many good points because of the attitude he conveyed. I think he turned a lot of people off to his
See, we're
point.
back to this thing we discussed before of it's very hard to defend them because their ideas are not popular. But then there's something about to be said for, isn't it supposedly the hallmark of civilization is how, I don't know who I'm quoting or what I'm saying, so I'll just make this up, but how a society treats its minority voices. Well, not its minority colors, but its voices of dissent. One of the great hallmarks of civilization is how a society tolerates and treats those people. And no, Luke is not easy to defend.
Well, the thing is, people were willing to listen, though. It's just the way he presented his argument.
Yeah, I agree.
Angry,
He does not.
hostile.
Exactly.
I mean, I think he was the only one that had to be bleak.
Nelson Mandela is not exactly non-angry and non-hostile now, is he?
But he's a bit more articulate.
He sure is.
Oh, boy, is he. From the standpoint of talk show people, can that man hold his own on what?
Yeah. He's not one to be politically, what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, he's trying to be politically astute. He isn't playing to the voting public.
He does not play to the camera.
His set of priorities, and he articulates them well. He knows where he stands, and he stands where he knows. He understands what he's trying to get across.
I think, though, the fact that he's here after 27 years for everything he went through, that's a large reason why people are showing up anyway.
Sure.
He doesn't even have to talk half the time.
By the way, let's hear it for your caller that was about 10:45, 10:50 when we were in the car coming down here. What an articulate and well-spoken person.
We were talking about that one in news,
the
right,
gentleman
from
who
Liberty
said he was
City.
a black person and that he was going to go out to see Mandela, and that and your point was well taken about here is this, what is this, AFSCME that is bringing Mandela in. The problem is that I think he should come to Miami because I think we have to confront and deal with these things, and I think the voices of reason have to speak up.
In other words, rather than another police shooting or an accidental death or a non-accidental type thing.
I mean, he is not going to be available to crowds of any sort down in Miami. The only leg of his trip where he's not going to be seen by crowds. Boston, New York handled it, Washington, but not down here.
Well, it's interesting that you made a reference, Dan, to Officer Lozano, because I was at a fair recently where there was a booth where they were selling T-shirts, and a certain faction of that community views Lozano as something of a hero.
Oh, yeah,
and,
for sure.
So I'm surprised that a group hasn't formed to support these guys that got in, that were off duty, that got in the car, these off-duty cops, and decided they pulled their pistols out and do a little
a little celebrating.
Yeah. I'm surprised there isn't a group that's been formed to support them in their.
How can you justify that?
That's
when
right.
you see groups supporting,
but that doesn't keep them from forming or getting publicity.
Point there.
When you see groups supporting Lozano,
right across the parking lot.
When you see groups supporting Lozano and selling Lozano T-shirts and T-shirts for his defense fund and things like that, then you have to say, and these are the same people that will say, let's not have Nelson Mandela in Miami.
Let's not buy a Mandela T-shirt.
Yeah, let's not buy a Mandela T-shirt.
Yes, these people are the same people who will say, gee, if he ever played in Cuba, let's not have them at Cayocho.
Yeah, right.
Right. I heard someone mention that on the air.
On my show.
On your show this morning.
And they were mentioning it in a negative context. It was a Cuban listener who said, gee, we've got to tolerate it.
People who make the decisions like that are community leaders. They make the decisions for the community.
Well, in the era of the soundbite, you get back to the whole question of what does it take to get elected. I saw a very, Neil would say, ponderous, but it was interesting discussion. I think it was Bill Moyes and, of all people, Leslie Stahl talking, and it was interesting but ponderous. And Leslie Moyes was essentially saying, look, you people have permitted the election to be stolen in 84 and 88. You abandoned your journalistic responsibilities to critique politics and to bring out the issues. So as a result, we have flag waving and who was the prisoner that they were running around? Willie Horton. Mm-hmm. And you have all this deciding an American presidential election. And Leslie Stahl says, wrong. Mm-hmm. We were saying all the time, Bush has not answered the questions on Iran-Contra. Willie Horton is this and that. The flag issue is not the big issue to elect the president on. This was in 88. And yet, what you had for pictures were the pictures of the children waving the flags, of Bush visiting the flag factory, and the pictures were so overwhelming that they could have been going during the narration, and the public would remember those pictures, and that says something about this whole issue we're talking about here.
Right, exactly.
It'll be interesting to see what happens to Bush's popularity now that he's decided that he is going to have to bring in some new taxes.
Yeah, did you see that on the wire just a little while ago? Bush has finally gone on record saying, yes.
Read my lips.
George, what now?
Well, now, I believe what I said was no new taxes. We are going to be bringing back some of the old taxes. And I believe I can still keep my campaign promise to the American people. Stay the course, 1,000 points of light, whatever the hell that means. I don't even know. Dan sure as hell doesn't know.
Where is Dan?
He doesn't know.
Dan
in the treehouse?
Dan is in the treehouse with the Secret Service playing Nintendo.
All right.
It's 11:18. We've got to take a break. Phone lines are available here. Give us a holler in Dade 751-9463 and Broward 524-WIOD and in Palm Beach 655-WIOD. Bill Tanner, Mark Moseley, Shirl V, Stan, and I will be back after this. We're back. It's 11:22. Bill Tanner, Mark Moseley, Shirl V from Power 96. Stan and I are back, schmoozing in between.
We should talk about on the air what you guys were just talking about.
Well, yeah, I think Tanner should, because that's a very important point, and that is, does the media lead or does the media respond?
Boy, the answer is that the public really responds to the media giving the public what it thinks they want.
Okay, but how many congressmen and senators are bald-headed?
Are what?
Bald-headed. No, think about it. Think about it. You're newer members of Congress.
They're flashy TV guys.
They've got to look the part.
Well, the ultimate example, look at Dan
Quayle.
How is he so
You tell me that in reality the Republicans didn't put Quayle on the ticket because they thought he would be so photogenic.
Right, exactly. He
no, in your heart they did.
And also,
you've got these big...
And now
who makes the most money? Wait a minute. Who makes the most money during a campaign?
Well, the ad agencies.
Your media types who recommend that the candidate do this, do that. And these are the guys who are sitting back in a room at the convention and telling a Bush or whoever it may be whether or not they feel the American public is going to accept. It's the instant consultant thing. The instant, what is this where they get 6 people in a room?
Focus group.
Yeah, it's an instant focus group. Exactly. You have an instant focus group on who your vice presidential candidate is.
And you see, here's the problem. The hard choices facing the country are not easily definable in a TV soundbite. Explain to me the Savings and Loan Association mess, please, in a soundbite.
In a soundbite.
Explain to me, please, the deficit in a soundbite. Neither of these are sexy topics at all. The public's kind of getting irate about the savings and loan mess because they've heard enough about it. I mean, it's the biggest financial scandal in history.
One soundbite that comes out of that is $5 out of every American's pocket for the next 27 years.
Yeah.
That's a good way to and that was a very good way that someone packaged it.
But how long did it take that to come up? And in the first place, it's like, oh, boring. Who wants to hear about the savings and loan thing? It's just not as sexy as the flag.
Till it affects your pocket. Let's take a call here and see what people are thinking about Good morning, Miami.
Good morning, everybody. How are you all today?
Hi. Good.
Good morning.
Tanner, I've always enjoyed you for X amount of years that you've been down here.
Go ahead. 430. I've been here longer than the sand.
Very polite man on the phone.
Thank you.
That's right. Anyway, this issue has been beat to death, but I'm going to beat it some more. The 2 Live Crew issue. Just want to bring up a couple of points and see if you agree with me. Nick Navarro.
Nick?
Everybody has said he's a glory seeker, but what people don't stop to realize is this. If they're making a big deal over the 2 Live Crew, the thing is, and I'm not putting this very well here, there's 2 albums out. I know you guys know this. You're working at radio, you know this, and I know everybody else.
Clean and versus the nasty version?
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
He's sitting here, and standing images, he's sitting here making a big deal over the 2 Live Crew when he can be going after Andrew Dice Clay, who doesn't make 2 versions of his album.
But there hasn't been a complaint registered against Andrew Dice Clay.
Right.
Well, I'd sure like to register a complaint. I'll go down there tomorrow. Let's do it. Straight publicity. Hop on the bandwagon.
This is my next point here. You get one person. Let me take Married with Children for an example. I happen to like that show, by the way.
I do too.
You have one lady up in Illinois, or wherever the hell she was at, make a complaint about Married with Children. So there you got 450 people after her that are going to say, oh, yeah, we're making the same, we agree with it.
And it's like Procter and Gamble.
We lost a lot of advertising.
One nut can definitely spoil a barrel,
Definitely
but
made
I
a whole
love
lot
the
of phone
tank
calls
top.
and a whole lot of letters to everybody and their brother to get her point across.
Well, you know what it's going to be next? It's not going to be Andrew Dice Clay, or it's not going to be anything like that. You know what it's going to be?
It's going to be CBS News, the Miami Herald.
It's going to be Bart Simpson.
Oh, Bart. There you go.
Hey, I'll make that complaint. I'll make that complaint.
Take it from me. It's going to be Bart Simpson, and that hair's got to go.
Well, one principal already tried it, right?
Really?
Banning the shirts.
Sure. They said that don't want to have underachiever shirts. And, the problem with all these arguments is that there's a little truth in both sides, and that's when the argument becomes hard. It's not just clearly black and white.
But see, Tanner, here's the thing that gets me. Let's say, for an example, I'll use myself as an example here, because I'll do this. It's happened before. Let's say that I listen to your show, which I happen to listen to it all the time. Let's say I listen to your show, and Tyrone does a rap or something on there, and let's say that he does something that I don't agree with, and I call up and I say to the station manager, oh, this went on the air this morning, and then somehow it gets spread into the news or something like that. Then you know there's going to be 3 or 4 of the people finally say, yeah, we heard it too.
Oh, yeah.
Now, nobody's going to say anything unless I say something.
I'd like to ask Tanner a question since he's in management over there. Has Tyrone ever done anything, or has Mark ever done anything a la Tyrone, which has resulted in a very legitimate and concerned complaint from the black community?
Yeah.
And how do you handle it?
Yeah, and that was early on in the character.
Early on,
I think that people were concerned, and we liken it to the Archie Bunker situation. It's parody, it's satire.
Yeah.
We are an equal opportunity offender. We have, and as we brought him with him today, ladies and gentlemen, a redneck from Davie, Florida.
There you go.
Redwood, ladies and gentlemen, is here thanking.
Thank you.
Theo Plenty.
I have not bathed in a couple of weeks, and I would like a beer at this time. I know y'all can get food on this show.
His wife is a sturdy woman with back hair.
Oh, she's a cold weather woman. You know what I mean?
So but that is, and we got complaints when we had Mindy on our show. We got complaints about Carmen Gonzalez.
And that was funny.
From the community. It's a hysterical character. And, the fact is that people...
Doesn't that show you, though, that you can't please everybody?
Well, sure. And that's something that fortunately...
Nobody can.
I think on this station, they get complaints all the time about Neil and about, I'm sure, everybody else on the air. But if management doesn't understand that the dissent is the format...
I just want to ask one more question and maybe bring up another point here. How come this is what gets me, how come they singled out the 2 Live Crew? Why not go after the Public Enemy #1s or the Professor Griffith or something like that?
Is it because they're in Broward County?
And another thing, now I listen to all types of music, by the way. I'm a big reggae fan. Now, I don't know if y'all are familiar with reggae music, but reggae has, if you listen to some of the reggae artists like Shabba Ranks or Tiger or anything like that, which I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they just exactly do the same thing as Two Live Crew, only they're doing it, in a different style. Nobody's ever complained about them.
If you feel as strongly about any particular thing that's offending you, and you have the time and are willing to invest it, you can affect the type of change that the gentleman that started the Two Live Crew has brought about.
Yeah. Thanks for calling, sir. We're going to take some other calls. Interesting point, though. Is it just Broward County? Is it because Two Live Crew is in Broward County?
Well, you do have certain elements in Broward County. The Two Live Crew was local. They were local to Dade County, but they, Dade, Broward, and the local area that, as the judge pointed out, is served by the same media.
And Palm Beach.
South Florida.
Right.
Think about it. Where did that term come from? The media.
Yeah.
How many people do you know that say, I live in South Florida? Right. Sure. But anyway, the point is that you do have a publicity-seeking sheriff. You do have a rabble-rousing rap group that is here locally and very available, and you have back to that whole thing of a very conservative and older voting public. That did you see the pictures in the paper of Nick with the little, the people who have organized, Sunday schools have organized little 8-year-olds to say we love Sheriff Navarro and so forth? That's he can. It's like the White House in the Nixon years when they would talk about the polls and how their mail was running. Well, the sheriff tells you how his mail is running. Yet the poll that was taken, didn't you find that interesting? In the paper this past Friday morning, was it? Thursday or Friday morning, where they had the poll and said that a large number of people, I think it was about a 54% majority, really supports the Two Live Crew in this issue. Granted that it's the younger and more...
They're tired of hearing them, and they want Nick to get off the TV already.
Yeah, a third of them want to get off.
It's enough already. It's enough already. But that Broward County, Nick Navarro really put us on the map for this issue.
Let me ask you a question. Shirl is here, and Randy, you're here. Have you listened to the As Nasty As I Want to Be album?
I think it stinks. I think it's awful.
And how offensive as women is this to you personally?
Very offensive. So I don't listen to it.
I feel practically the same way. It's like, it's there, okay, I don't have to listen to it, though, if I don't want to. It's just like a lot of Andrew Dice Clay. I can take like 5 or 10 minutes of Andrew Dice Clay, but I would not pay $20, $25 to go sit through a whole concert of him cursing this. It's, the F word this, the S word this, the F word this. After a while, it gets to be boring.
But you have the right to turn it off, or not go to the concert, or turn this show off, or not buy the record.
Yeah, but I think the people who want to censor that and prevent, in the name of cleaning up things...
But who are they to speak for Shirl or I? Or you? Who are they? Who put them in charge?
There's like a lot of separation. I mean, I'm a person who goes to church every Sunday, and they say, don't listen to that, that's bad. But you kind of got to make your own choice. It's like, okay, well, the church doesn't like it, but I have my own opinion.
It's like Mario Cuomo and abortion.
What happened with this whole thing is I think it went too far from the start. We need to protect the children from being exposed.
But isn't that up to a parent?
And Mark is a parent, exactly.
I am a parent, and if I know that my 8-year-old son Chris can go into the record store and buy the Two Live Crew album, then that to me is unacceptable. It should be put behind the counter. It should see what it was I think the judge made the ruling with the intention that this should happen. But what had happened was then people went too far and said, okay, you can't buy this. No one can listen to this album.
No one can listen.
No, that's wrong. That's definitely overstepping the interpretation. I mean, you're misinterpreting what the judge's rules are.
Well, don't you think, Bill, that when this goes to a higher court, that on the next...
It's got to go to a higher
court. There is a school of thought that said the judge knew that he was going to be overturned on a higher level and that he could fit right nicely in with the right-thinking, moral people in our community and come down on that side easily, knowing that he's going to be overturned.
That's interesting philosophy.
But you don't have any problem with stickering albums, do you?
Well, I have a problem, period. But I think that in the real world, personally, I have a problem. I think you should just put it out there.
But they put ratings on movies.
Exactly. And I think in the real world, Randy, you have to accept that because you have a lot of people, just as Mark Moseley said, you have the Two Live Crew that is pushing the line, pushing it horribly. They've offended you. They've offended Shirl. Mark Moseley doesn't want his kid listening to him. And therefore, there must exist, if we're going to have their right to speak, then you have to have some sort of a screen to say, hey, they're speaking this, and maybe parents ought to know about it. So, yeah, I've kind of reluctantly come around.
Do you think the same goes for an Ozzy Osbourne
for sure.
record?
I think it's even more difficult in that situation because
then you get into religious.
You also have that case coming up on July 16th where they're saying that some rock group or whoever it was caused some kids to commit suicide. That was just in Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
I remember reading that.
And then you have Charles Manson's people who claim that the Beatles' Helter Skelter sure was a part of that murderous rampage that took place, what, in the late 60s?
So we should ban
Sure
all
wasn't
Jewish
McDonald's hamburgers.
Yeah,
That's right. Let's take another call, see what's going on. Broward, you're on the air.
Yes, basically, I'm a former broadcaster myself. A few people know me. Basically, what I'm getting at is, this is America. If you want something, you buy something. If you don't have to listen to it, or you don't have to buy it.
But a 10-year-old child who really cannot make up his mind, or that may be drawn to this because of the mystery of it, the intrigue of it, can go or could go in and purchase it. And
that's true.
think that's not a good thing.
Well, I mean, how many instances do you hear of small children, small young boys, sneaking Playboy into school just because it's such a cool thing to do?
So let's find the Two Live Crew album to be pornographic. Let's put it behind the counter. Let's be done with it. Let's not
rate it
say
X.
No one can listen to this. But I don't think you burn books or ban records in a free society.
Well,
you don't.
That's my point. My point is that, okay, sure, put it behind the counter, put an age limit on it. But you can't take it away from a free society. This is a free society. As we start to see that America's turning out more like Russia, and Russia's turning out more like America was.
How many times have I heard that?
Yeah, you're going to hear a lot more about it. I mean, this is absurd.
It is absurd. It's really absurd. Unfortunately, it comes from the place where we live, too, which makes it even more
The
absurd.
CBS guy asked me how I felt about this area being known for dirty lyrics. I said, I feel much worse about it being known for censorship.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And they're saying that deregulation is happening. If you watch Channel 39 or 33, all the non-affiliate stations, you can see TNA all day long.
Yeah, but that's going to stop.
That's going to stop?
Because Jesse Helms and his cohorts are...
Hey, Helms is behind in the polls. Is he going to lose?
I hope so.
Well, wouldn't that be something?
I hope so, too. What about the whole, the art funding, the NEA,
the whole
funding or withholding funds or shutting down exhibits?
You know, it's very hard to defend to Christians the concept of an artistic exhibit where the guy is immersing a crucifix in urine. That's very hard to defend. But the point is, as a whole, I haven't run across crowds of people holding up jars of urine with crucifixes in them, nor have I run across crowds of people burning the flag.
Should you, the taxpayer, fund that kind of art? That's the question.
That is a real,
that's the question.
Real sticky question.
Or whether it should come from private funding.
That is I prefer. I don't think the government really has much business at all in being involved in the
funding art.
God, I mean, then you have Jesse. Who is the government? Jesse Helms.
Well, that's the scary part.
I know.
Again, who is this man? And why is he telling us what's art and what's not?
That's why we need those new taxes. So we can show crucifixes and urine.
Thank you, George.
Let's take this mobile.
Totally against the lyrics. Don't like the lyrics. Barbara hates the
Sheriff
lyrics.
Nick doing a good job.
Julie
Georges. I don't like broccoli. I don't have to buy it.
Well, let's ban it.
I don't have to buy. I wouldn't ban broccoli.
Burn broccoli.
Hey, wouldn't be prudent at this juncture.
It's stalking us.
Wouldn't be good. Totally against it. Everybody has a right to listen to what they want to listen to. That's why I'm president. I make these decisions. Thank you.
And good night. Let's take another mobile call. Good morning.
Good morning. First-time caller. I hear the show constantly, and finally got up the nerve to make this phone call.
Good for you, sir.
I really want to talk a little bit about the situation, not only regarding Two Live Crew, the other things that have been happening lately in Broward. I'm 31 years old, and I like to go to the beach every once in a while.
Your phone is really awful, sir.
Yeah, he's
going,
a mobile.
Well, thank God he likes to go to the beach.
You would thank God for technology,
better.
right?
Exactly. Spend some money, sir. Get a better phone.
No,
Let's check out this call in Miami.
Call back. He'll be all right.
Hello there. You know, I hate to say this. I hate to make generalizations, but I have to think that if the story of the century were to happen and we were to establish contact with an intelligent race from another galaxy, the first question the Spanish media would ask is, well, what's their position on Castro?
Yeah, and did they ever play and can they be used at Cayo Show?
I mean, Mandela is just not about that. Castro's an anachronism. He's an old man. He's on the way out. Mandela's about something else.
It's embarrassing he's still alive. That's all it is.
No, it is.
I tried. I also want to say, Tanner, you're just one of the most articulate, intelligent voices on the media down here, and it's
Thank you. No, appreciate that.
It's a shame we don't get to hear you in this
Especially like those heavy topics first thing in the morning.
Yeah, right.
That's what makes Kane #1 in New York.
Let's talk about the new kids.
And I heard
we're talking about the soundbite and the media and how it influences these things. I wonder if any of you can actually say what it was that Mandela said about Castro.
Boy, isn't that a good question? In my mind, what he said. Now, that's a very pertinent thing.
Did you hear it?
People hear what they want to hear. I'm sure I heard the soundbite, but let me spit back to you what I think he said, and then you can, if you obviously have the soundbite.
No, I haven't heard it, and that's my point.
Well, what I think he said is that these people supported him when nobody else did, and he's not going to go back on them now.
Was that
exactly
it?
what he said.
Because, the Challenger blows up, and they practically run a continuous loop of it on CNN, but maybe it's a little bit complicated the way he phrased it, and a long article in the Herald didn't have the quote, and an article about that didn't actually quote.
Well, I saw it on TV quite a few times.
I saw the clip, I think, from the Koppel
The Koppel show, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, Nightline.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's been on much, and that's, that is, a lot of people are reacting to this as happens typically with this kind of thing without having heard what it was. Yeah. I'd like to have heard it myself and judged for myself.
Nelson did not, in fact, parade up and down the street with a flag that said "Yay Castro."
Yeah, right.
No.
Well, like I said, he has another agenda. He's got a much bigger fish to fry, and
he's for anybody that supports him, anybody that gives them what they need.
And that I have a little bit of a problem with. That's kind of, come on. Castro's human rights abuses. Doesn't it seem like... I thought Carl Hyacin articulated very well in the Herald yesterday.
Yeah.
When he said that basically, Mandela, our heroes have clay feet at times, and that Mandela's off base with Castro and Arafat and Gaddafi and so on. But that does not mean that he's not a hero because he is
I agree
a hero.
With you.
Right,
we were talking about it this morning. I agree with you.
He's about something else. If I may, one last thing, real quick, about patriotism and free speech. What flag wavers and so-called patriots miss all the time with this kind of thing is the difference between condoning and allowing. You may be, and it's when you find something reprehensible, then it's all that much more important that you defend that as opposed to someone who agrees with it, because that's a real proof of our freedoms and the defense of our freedom.
Of people to tolerate ideas that is not their own.
That's right, and it's an easy cop-out to call yourself a patriot and defend all the easy things like the stars and stripes and the flag and the presidency. But to stand up and defend something you personally find offensive, that is real patriotism.
And when people said that the founding fathers didn't have the Two Live Crew in mind, I suggest to you that they had other things that were just as intolerable to them as the Two Live Crew.
Oh, sure they did.
Benjamin Franklin said, "I may not agree with what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it." And it lives today. Thanks for the time.
Thank you for calling.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's take another line. Miami.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I'd like to dedicate what I'm saying towards Bill Tanner, Mark Moseley, and Shirl V. Are they there now?
Yes, they are here.
How you doing, guys?
Hi.
I listened to Power 96, man. I was there when Cox broke his head on the
first day.
I just
it's still broken, by the way.
Yeah, I could tell it's a little screwed. I'd just like to say, dedicate the song Snap to you guys. I've got the power, because Power 96 is the best station in the nation. Talk to you guys later.
Appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
The best station in the nation, eh?
Well, I do think Power 96 is this. It is one of America's most unusual music mixes, and there's a good reason for that. There's a lot of talk out there these days about bottom-up marketing. It's even a book. And Power 96 is a response to the community that it transmits to.
Here's my question to you. How does a white boy from the South appeal to a large Latin audience?
By listening to the street. Both Mark Moseley and Bill Tanner and Jim Reilly are white boys from the South. But we love this place, this wacky, crazy place called Miami. I absolutely love its diversity. I live in Broward County, and I love to hop in the car and spend an afternoon, whether you're talking about in South Miami or Cayocho or even more obscure parts of West Dade, and then, get in the car and go to Palm Beach and, act like you can afford the stuff on Worth Avenue. and I love diversity. I grew up in Mississippi, which was about as unilateral a society as you possibly could. My father was a government employee all of his life. And that was then, and this is now, and I enjoy the diversity. I think Mark's the same
I come
way.
from a very prejudiced background.
I do too.
At a fairly early age, I decided that that wasn't me.
No, I remember.
And that I like people, and I like differences.
I grew up where
I find them fascinating.
My grandmother's maid, a black woman as dear to my family as any family member, would bring her daughter was retarded, and she had a child who was my age. And the child would come to work with his grandmother and would play, and we would play all the time. But when it came time to eat dinner, Sonny, his name was Sonny, couldn't eat dinner with us. And as long as I can remember, as a small child, I thought, this is a pile of crap. And I can remember many dinner table discussions. My older brother threw bricks at Ole Miss. He threw bricks at James Meredith. And while I was on the air as a child, as a teenager, broadcasting at what was then a mutual affiliate, just like this one is, when Kennedy was making his speech, and we were carrying it, and he was appealing to the people of Mississippi to use their sense of history and to remember their heritage and tolerate this, what was then called an outside agitator, and allow this admission to Ole Miss from James Meredith without violence. While the station was broadcasting this, I looked down, and driving round and round the station were people with Confederate flags tied to their radio antennas, and we were up on the second floor in the building with the newspaper, and they were riding round and around the station, blowing their horns and shining their headlights and giving us the finger. And I thought to myself, I wonder if there's a runway around here that takes me somewhere else.
Back door to this place that I haven't found yet.
Yeah.
So you've really hit upon it's mostly a Latin-oriented station. Wasn't that way when you were at Y100?
No, I think Power 96 is less intended to be a Latin station than it is intended to reflect Miami, which is a somewhat Latin town. And that's why you'll hear a group like Roxette. We play that Roxette record. It should have been love. It could have been love. Might have been love.
Must have been love.
Must have been love. Something like Shirl, some kind of love like that.
Yeah,
love. And I noticed, you might have seen this morning, I had the music research out looking at it while we were on the air, and the number one record is something like Tiana and First True Love, which is a very Latin dance record, and the number two record is the Roxette record. And the point is, Miami is it's a melting pot, and the music reflects it as a melting pot. So we're not just a dance station, but we're dancey because the community is rather Latin. I mean, even when you add Broward in, there's a strong Latin influence. And then on the other side of the coin, when I was the program director of Y100 and the morning guy there for 9 years, Y100 covered a lot of bases. It was for housewives who liked rhythmic or even black music, and generally the Latin listeners fell along those lines, and you'd have white women and teenagers that were from the New York area that grew up listening to WABC before Stan was on there, and Kane, yeah, and BK.
Well, bottom line is, what is Coast going to do in the market?
It'll be in the mix with the rest of them.
Better than GTR, number one.
It'll be easier to sell than GTR because the yes, probably because the salesmen here are more acclimated to selling it, and this business is again, it's all about making money. What I was going to say to answer your question though about the difference in Y100 and here is that the diversification of media, the tremendous number of FM stations that have come along and maximized their stations, their power, their signal, their promotion, their advertising, their giveaways, their disc jockeys, and all the things that make a music station. 10 years ago, Magic 102, which is probably the revenue-leading station in the market these days, was just a little small disco station that was the FM of WRBD.
I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And a very underpowered license to Pompano Beach. So all these people have come along and improved their radio stations so that big tent that used to be called Y100, in fact, they're playing to a small faction themselves.
Split up.
Which are, Anglo women. They've had to renounce the teens and renounce the ethnics, and what they have left is the third-place contemporary radio station. I mean, they're making a living with it, and it's for what it is, it's all right. But what it isn't is a winner.
Let's take this mobile call. It's been on hold for a while. You there?
Yeah, I'm still here. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
The reason why I was calling is regarding the situation with the Two Live Crew and Mr. Nick Navarro.
Sheriff's here right now. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead,
I know we haven't talked enough about it yet, so that's why I want to put my 2 cents in.
I think we've talked
The
enough
cameras will
about
be here in
it.
a few minutes.
All right. Does my hair look okay?
Yeah, fine.
You sound like Andy Griffith.
Who, me?
No, Nick.
Oh, Nick.
Well, Andy was a sheriff.
Anyway, what I wanted to say, I've been living in Broward for a couple of years only, and I've been noticing it's very disturbing when, being a young person, when you start seeing destruction of the spring, for example, even though there were problems with it, but I don't think they had to take so drastic measures against it. The other...
Can't have all those kids down here, sir.
Yeah, oh no, that's bad.
Can't do it.
Isn't it the same thing?
We can't have them...
Don't you think it's the same thing? Luther Campbell pushes the line.
That's right.
The kids from spring break push the line. All of a sudden, the authority figures go wham. We are the enforcers.
And push it all the way back to square one.
The pendulum swings all the time.
The other thing, for example, is, they did away with the spring break. They did away with most of the topless bars in Broward also. Now they're...
Don't forget the naughty videos.
Oh, obviously.
How about
Stan can't forget them.
I can't get my videos in.
How about the person in Alabama who complained about that satellite station Ecstasy?
American Triple Ecstasy.
And that's gone. I mean, what does it take? Does it take only one person to take it off, or
It did in that case. I think
one person to start it.
Yeah.
I mean, because where are we in this situation? I would like to go against, whoever it is. I believe in everybody having their own right.
Don't you think the problem is that they're organized and we're not?
It could be. I just don't know where to go.
I also think people are very apathetic about voting. I think you've got to really tell people the only way they're going to change things like this and get people out of office that are making rules for you is to vote.
I think the conservative element has always been better organized than I won't even call it liberal, because the L word is such a dirty word, but just the mainstream.
Please don't use that.
God forbid.
No way. I know the situation is where do I mean, as I said, I haven't been here for a long period of time. I've been here only a couple of years, but I'd like to defend my way of living. I'd like to be able to have a satellite dish. I'd like to be able to go, if I want to go with topless bar, go there.
Yeah.
If I want to rent an X-rated video, I want to be able to...
You sleaze, sir.
You don't prefer to live in Romania?
Probably.
We want to make Fort Lauderdale a great place to die.
What a great advertising campaign.
Yeah, a great place to die.
You know, they wouldn't call the
Lauderdale.
That's right.
Isn't it true that they wouldn't name the community Sunset because of that very fact? So they named it Sunrise.
Oh, no, I didn't
I call
know
it LaMelo Land.
That's right.
Well, it's like every comedian says, my parents are over 60, they live in Florida. That's the law. I mean...
That's the law. Right,
that's the law. I send them over there and forget about them. We send them there to die.
So what can we do? We can vote. Is that it?
You can vote, but you have to organize, and you have to have as sexy a film sound bites as the other people do. Yeah, I mean, it really is about... Randy, it's back to this whole thing of television.
No, I disagree.
Do you?
I absolutely disagree, and if this gentleman will give me a minute, I'll tell him exactly what he can do.
Sure.
There is an individual who will remain unnamed on this program who is basically behind all this stuff. You can do exactly the same thing, but the reverse, by simply organizing a group to keep an eye on what this particular individual is doing and what other individuals of like kind are doing. Because as long as we can't rely on the Miami Herald,
that's correct,
on the Sun Sentinel, we certainly can't rely on the TV stations because they're federally licensed. We can't rely on other radio stations because they're federally licensed. It takes an individual with a lot of time on his hands,
a lot of time,
a lot of money,
a lot of
who can
belief,
well organize, who believes in the First Amendment to the Constitution, who believes in what a guy like Neil Rogers ought to be able to say on this program, absolutely.
And let me tell you something. Stan is 110% correct, sir. Believe it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks for calling.
Thank you very much.
11:54. We've got to take a break here. We'll come back with the whole crew and continue this discussion next on News Talk Radio.
At home watching White Lauderdale, talking about how bums are stealing 95 guardrail, when suddenly with a bulletin to dish up onto the screen came his partner Ann Bishop. She said, this just in, the Eyewitness News, it's Governor Martinez and the True Live crew will have mortgage sales coming up at 5:30. He pulled them from the stores cause they so dirty.
Oh, they're so dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. They curse all the time. Oh, they're so dirty. So dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. They curse all the time.
Bob had heard the album and he was appalled. He said, thank you, Janet Reno. I'm glad that you called. We've got to take a stand against this dirty rhyme. Besides, it's really close to election time. His Broward judge friend said, I will not fail ya. We'll censor any mention of genitalia. They're selling sex to kids going through puberty. The Two Live crew, yeah, they so dirty.
Oh, they're so dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. They curse all the time. Oh, they're so dirty. So dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. They curse all the time.
He kicked crap a butt to show he had guts. So most of the people said, this guy is a puss. He rid the land of that noise pollution, even though it went against the Constitution. And what did Luke do during all of this jive? Sold 10,000 more copies at $12.95. He bought a brand new Mercedes. It's really hurty driving it to the bank, cause he's so dirty.
Oh, they're so dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. They curse all the time. Oh, they're so dirty. So dirty. Oh, they're so dirty. They curse all the time.
Is that a Mark Moseley production?
Well, no, it's Ann Bishop that did that, right, Ann?
Ann Bishop from Channel 10 Eyewitness News. We'll be looking for you again tonight.
Oh, I'm glad. And we'll be back, as will Bill Tanner, Mark Moseley, Shirl V, Stan and I, and Gail Bright with the news. And Bill Tanner and Mark Moseley and Shirl V from Power 96. So what's the problem here? You're programming this radio station?
Yeah,
that's not enough controversy.
Tanner's so jealous of the rickshaw drop-ins.
You need some, huh?
Yeah, come on, Neil, juice it up.
Juice it up.
Stir that stuff
I think
up.
that's what he was talking about before he left.
Yeah. I think that probably my admiration for Neil Rogers with people that listen to this show is known. I think Neil is brilliant. He is certainly one of the top people that I've ever heard on any radio station anywhere.
What a tremendous wit.
He's a wit, he's a quick comeback, and his voice alone, you can read the expression on his face, which I tell my disc jockeys they will attest to. The program director says, I want to hear the expression on your face. And Neil is, I hold Neil up as an example of that. But come on.
We've got to get him
Hockey
juiced up.
ain't it. Juice it up, Neil.
Juice
Come
it up.
on. And take away the promotion department and change it to the controversy department. Get the suits out of the building and let's go.
It's against the rules.
Yeah, right.
It's against the rules.
Hey, the Cox sisters ain't gonna lose the license, and so let's get on with some great radio.
Hey, we've got some phone lines open.
I just want to point out one quick thing. WNWS days, where the controversial talk radio basically started years ago, late 70s or something like that.
Not anymore.
77, 78.
Yeah. So it existed, and it was, I guess, singly owned, or, and it was kind of like a...
It was not a big corporate situation.
No, it existed kind of like a boil on the rear end of Miami radio, but a lot of people listened to it, and it was successful. And so here comes this big company, Jefferson Pilots, and they're going to put on a talk radio station on a 50,000-watt radio station right beside it, and everybody should have switched over right, but they didn't because it was milquetoast. Pablum. And so they said, well, if we can't, it must be our signal. We only have 50,000 watts. Let's buy this little station over here, and we'll buy it. If we can't create it, we'll buy it. And as soon as they bought it, they ruined it. Because the name of this format is not talk, it's controversy. Hell-raising.
So if you were RPD...
I would tell you to raise more hell all the time.
Raise some hell.
Screw the corporate people.
Well,
raise hell.
I got the phone lines working. Raise some hell. Miami. Good. Broward.
Hey, how you guys doing there?
We're about to go to sleep, sir.
Don't expect me to remember all your
call
names.
somebody a douchebag.
No, I'm not.
No, the guy right before you.
Oh, okay. No, did you guys hear the news? Martinez wants to call Mandela a commie? Well, I guess it takes one to know one.
Oh. You should just call him a douchebag and be done with it.
You know, really. Okay, I'm going to touch on this 2 Live Crew thing and let you guys freak out. First thing is the parents should teach their kids morals and values, not Sheriff Nick. If they know what's right and wrong and they listen to the record, they know that it's just a joke. Don't believe it. But Sheriff Nick wants everybody to think, well, their kids are going to believe this.
Sheriff Nick wants to get elected again.
Well, I hope everybody remembers to vote in 2 years.
Yeah,
that's the key.
That is the key.
That's the key.
I mean, I registered to vote on my 18th birthday.
Do you vote?
Absolutely. Every vote. I don't care if it's for some stupid bill, or bond issue. I vote for everything.
Good for you.
I read the paper every day. I'm 25 years
I don't
old.
think that's the majority, though, to tell you
No,
the truth.
unfortunately, it's not.
Especially for baby boomers.
So now that you do, encourage your friends to. How many of your
I
friends?
always do.
How many of your friends do?
Probably about 50%, which is what showed up for the last presidential election.
It's possible to emotionally charge people to the point where they will get angry enough to go out and vote. And if that's what it takes to do, then you have to do it.
Well, that's what I try to
people
do.
you can contact.
Well, I tell them, when people come and complain to me about Reagan or Bush or anything like that, I just look at them and say, did you vote? And they say no. I say, then don't talk to me.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You're right.
Don't talk to me. I don't want to
people
hear
think
it.
it's not cool to vote?
No, they're apathetic.
They
People
don't
are
want
afraid
take
to
the
lose.
time.
Pass the crunch taters and turn up the soap, the Three's Company.
Yeah, I'm too busy, or I don't want to take the time. It's too much time out of my life. Well, then don't complain for the next 4 years.
I think a lot of what had to do with the last election was everybody knew George Bush was going to win. They knew Dukakis was going to lose, and people don't want to vote for a loser.
Well, what everybody also says, and this is true too, is
If
when
you're on the fence, and you say, well, I don't know.
Don't you think the
I think I'll
difficulty
vote for the
thing-
winner.
We all talk about voting, and the first thing that comes to mind is a presidential election, when all the laws that we're bitching about here are done by either the state or the local,
right?
The city ordinance people, who's representing you at the city council meeting. And I don't know about you guys, but when I go there and I see all these names, who are these people anyway, and what do they stand for?
Well, we couldn't even vote in Judge Gonzalez. He was appointed.
Yeah, that's true.
That bugs me. We can't vote him out. We're stuck with him. Thank you, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you now, one last thing, and wait till the next 2 Live Crew album, because this is all going to start again.
Yeah, you know what it's called, don't you?
No.
What is it called?
Banned in the USA.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It comes out a week from tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, it's all going to start again. It's going to be just as nasty. And I'll tell you, it's a media blitz for them.
Are they gonna
Now they're going to sell more albums.
Oh, sure.
Are they going to put two editions out, though? Or
Out
just one
there,
this time?
I have not heard that they're putting a clean version out this time,
Just the
although Luther Campbell did tell our assistant program director that he was going to do a clean version of the first single for us. Now, whether they're going to release this is to be bought by the public,
Well,
I don't
here's the
know.
question. If the new album's coming out and it can't be played on the airwaves, where are people going to hear it? In clubs?
It will be played on the airwaves.
In little
If
meetings
it's-
with bathtub gin.
Really?
If it's
Where?
if it's clean, then you can play it on the air. Yeah. They had 3 albums out before Nasty as They Want to Be, and people that listen to 2 Live Crew music will tell you that the third album was worse, if that's possible.
Did you play it? Did
The
you play
third
the
album
clean
was
version?
worse than this one.
What? Did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, the Me So Horny soundbite from that comes from, what is the movie, Mark? You're Mr. Movies. It's a Vietnam movie where the Vietnamese hookers are trying to get the soldiers to come in.
Oh, I know.
And
what
they're
you're
standing there
talking
going,
about.
"Oh,
Me so horny.
oh, me so horny." That's the soundbite that the song "Me So Horny" was built around. And so I thought the song was pretty clever. I mean, it's like a lot of the other records you come. I mean, are we going to like...
Not great, just okay.
Yeah, I mean, people say to me, do you really like that music you play on the radio? And I say, no, I much prefer Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods that I played at Y100. Give me a break. It's pop music. But the point is this, that it was all right for what it was. And I knew it would be popular because the actual cleaned up version is like a Wink and sexy but not too dirty records. Clever records like that are a hit with the public. Now, I do have some problems with this. For a long time, you see, to our audience, this whole debate is ridiculous because it's closing the barn door long after the horses galloped away, because they all ran out and bought whichever version they wanted during the, how many months, Stan? 9 months or a year that it was out, when no one said anything about anything, and so they could buy whatever they wanted. So they're like, well, what is all the hassle?
I said that, we said on the air, I would have loved to have been in the courtroom when the judge ruled on this, and when he said, you cannot buy this album, to have been able to lean over and whisper in his ear, excuse me, Judge, they already have it.
And it's worth just vastly increased. Thank you.
Exactly. What did he sell? 2.7 million copies, something like that?
Yeah, it's up there.
We were talking to Richie Pachter the other day, trying to figure out how much of each album sold Campbell got.
A lot, because he does not have a record company as a middleman.
That's what he pointed out.
Exactly.
That's what he pointed out.
He has had many opportunities to be affiliated with a major record label and has wisely turned them down, saying, why do I need you guys? I'm doing all right, thank you.
System and
my Visa card still works.
Smart guy.
Yeah.
But that's also going over into other acts. You mentioned Andrew Dice Clay, who hasn't been touched yet, but Madonna was almost censored in Toronto.
Yeah, but what really happened, as soon as she said, come on, and made a little fuss, they said, oh, sorry.
Well, from what I understand, she said, if you want to, I'm not going to change, well, actually, she said, I'm not going to change my something act for you, and if you want to cancel the concert, you tell 30,000 people, not me, and then they backed off. So that decision was made by the police, not even court.
I mean, everybody agrees there's a line over which we don't want our kids to be exposed, or our wives, or our mothers, or whatever, and that's sort of pretty much agreed. Of course, the question is, we can't agree on where the line is drawn, or particularly, from my standpoint, who's going to draw the line.
Okay, but let me ask you this question, just as a devil's advocate here. I subscribe to HBO, Cinemax, and Showtime. I pay money for those. And an Andrew Dice Clay pops up, or an Eddie Murphy pops up on one of those channels. I'm not getting my money's worth because I'm not going to watch these guys. And it bugs me that they're on these pay channels with their stuff, because I don't want that on my household, and I don't want to watch it. It's a lock on me. I've already paid for that, but I don't want it. It's not this, and your argument is going to say, well, suppose there's a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie on you don't want to watch it. It's not the same thing, because I can leave the stupid violent movie on without fearing that the children in the household are going to hear the F word every 10 seconds from an Eddie Murphy or whatever.
Although the F word is certainly prevalent in a lot of these movies that are...
Yeah, that's true, but not it's to the extent that...
The format is not the F word, period.
I mean, it's not a whole act.
Rent Heidi. That'll solve your problem.
Yes, rent Heidi, and just watch some Heidi movies, and y'all leave me alone, because I'm a comedian. I'm going to stay out of this.
Eddie, you absolutely spoke for 10 seconds without being bleeped.
I did. I can do that. I can
Marvin, get your hand on the button.
Don't keep the hand away from the button.
We're going to cut out for a commercial.
Marvin, take your hand off the button.
We'll be back.
It's getting critical here.
WIOD. We're just sitting here trying to figure out how we would program radio stations if we had one. Do you have critiques on every radio station in town?
Sure, it's my job.
Do you listen to a radio station other than yours and go nuts?
All the time. Yeah. Well, I have radio stations that my personal favorite radio station that I listen to for my own just enjoyment if I'm not working is WIOD. And I listen to, I like the CBS News on Winds, and I'll punch over and hear that. So I don't listen.
What about music radio?
Music radio, I listen around to different radio stations. I'll punch, competitively, of course, I punch Y100 and and Hot 105 to see what they're doing, but their programming doesn't really interest me because there's not much entertainment value. It's mostly records, just back-to-back records, and so that I do more in the concept of working. But for enjoyment, I like...
anything nice to say about the competition, Bill?
Yeah, I think Hot 105 is a good radio station that is extremely well programmed by a brilliant programmer, Keith Isley. He's excellent. I think that the people, that my friend Frank Amadeo, who programs Y100, is a nice person and is completely overrun by the manager of that radio station, who should stay out of the programming. That's you, Rosie, you know. And and everybody knows it in the market too.
But Bill, tell us how you really feel.
Don't hold anything back.
But I
Come
think
don't sugarcoat it.
But when you talk about the other radio stations around, the adult contemporary stations, I find some records that I like on Coast. I used to like, you know what I used to like? I used to like Joy before they changed it, because I'm 45 years old. The format was called Format 41, and boy did they hit my button all the time. But you see, here in the twilight years of my rather mediocre career, I have passed the demographic. I have passed the age of demographic desirability.
They're not programming for you anymore.
And so no one programs.
When you listen to Power when you're in your car, can you listen calmly?
Oh yeah,
without getting.
I believe as you get upset about some things you hear, and as Cox will tell you, I do call heatedly at times.
On the hotline?
Yes, but I believe that mostly what disc jockeys need when they're on the air is encouragement. The disc jockey needs to hear, boy, you tore it up on that last one. Excellent. More. And that, if that is the attitude that the program director has most of the time, that really brings out the creativity in the individual people on the air, and that's what I want personally as a program director. I will say this, not many people apparently agree with me because radio is pretty damn bland out there.
Yeah, some years ago somebody said, oh, well, the disc jockeys are all talking too much. And what was happening was people who had no business being disc jockeys were on there talking who had nothing to say.
So, yeah.
But if you have something to say,
who was it
creatively.
Who was the guy? Was it Mark Twain or someone, I don't know, who said brevity is the soul of wit? And that's what being a great disc jockey, I think, is all about. When you hear Cox just hitting on all fours, to me, my favorite personal disc jockey in all the world is Robert W. Walker on our station. And he can say more in fewer words and just fit the energy level. You know, great radio and great disc jockeys enhance the enjoyment of the music. Otherwise, they would be replaced by a CD player in your trunk.
Right.
But a great disc jockey who really enjoys music and can keep you on the edge of your seat about things that are coming up and maybe weave a little community action into what's going on. Kid Curry, who is on our station now, is a great disc jockey.
Isn't it strange all the good ones are on your station?
Well,
amazing.
I think
take a mobile
because
call
I
here.
believe in disc jockeys. I believe they're important. You know, I don't believe
as opposed to non-personality radio.
Exactly.
Good for you. Mobile.
Hi. How you doing? Just as an example of how far censorship is extending, I don't know if you're aware of the example of American Ecstasy.
We were just talking about it.
Oh, you did?
The satellite.
Yeah, I mean, I was a subscriber to that. That was you had to pay a lot of money for that. And you had, all these boxes come with a parental lockout code.
Yeah.
And I don't know how far you got into the discussion of what happened, but basically one state.
Alabama. Well, he lost him on the mobile, but what happened is one rural sheriff came across a bunch of teenagers that had these porno films that they'd taped off the satellite, and he filed a legal action against Home Dish, the owners of the company that operated not only American Triple Ecstasy, but Tuxedo, which was a slightly toned-down version of the porno channels that was also on the satellite. And he filed a legal complaint against the company's owners, Home Dish Satellite in New York, which, by the way, was some ex-NBC honcho that ran the thing, some guy named Paul something or other. Anyway, it was to the point, and it may still be to the point, where the only thing that is keeping this sheriff in Alabama from extraditing these people to Alabama for criminal trial about having invaded Alabama's airspace, I guess, or whatever it is,
Whatever you want.
is Mario Cuomo. and they're waiting to decide if Cuomo's going to allow the extradition, and probably he won't, we hope.
Also, that councilman from Palm Beach, Ron Howard, who is Opie in disguise, right? Wants to get the 900 numbers off the TV.
That's today in the paper, right?
Off advertising on TV, especially the women.
Well, it has nothing to do with censorship. I get tired of seeing them. I mean, you watch a movie. Oh, God. I mean, just one right after another, and...
Stan, let's form a committee against boredom.
That's it.
Censors against boredom.
Things that are insulting to your intelligence.
That and the 800 PI stuff that just comes up, the album that just comes up all the time, consistently.
But Zamfir on the pan
I guess you have
flute.
to take that in. Yeah, right.
I never knew there was actually a Zamfir until I saw him.
He sold more records than the Beatles and Boxcar Willie combined.
It's pretty frightening.
Heard of it?
No, it's pretty frightening. I saw his ad on cable a couple of weeks ago. I couldn't believe it. It's 12:27. We're going to take a break here, and we'll be back.
The ratings.
The few days before he left, he was saying just exactly what you're saying. Let's not have any more
He's
of
going to
this.
fine-tune his show, according to Neil. This is what he said before he left for vacation. And you're right.
He will, too.
And what you were talking about, he was talking about
Neil
also.
is not for everybody, but he has certainly at the head of a very slim pack of people. He can bring ratings to radio stations.
Why are you listening to the station today, ma'am?
I'm listening to the station today because
A horrible
of what I
accident.
told. No,
Because you heard us thank you about it on Power 96.
let me tell you now. When I did go over to Mike Ranieri in the morning, and all of a sudden Mike was on, or Neil was on, I listened for a while. I thought, my God, he's the same that he was years ago, and I switched off. Then I'd go back and forth because people do switch back and forth when they listen to the radio. And I heard you on. I think Stan and you are very interesting this morning, and I agree with Stan what he said about having that in his home. If he wants to listen to that somewhere else, fine. But he's wise and right to say in his home he doesn't want the children there to have all this an excess of smut. It's just we all know the words. And Neil sort of reminds me of a little kid who says, "Oh, I know a dirty word."
Where did you learn them, ma'am?
Where did I learn what?
The words. Tell us.
The words that Neil uses are not cuss words. They are words that are just in poor taste.
No, ma'am, we want to hear where you learned them.
What words?
The words that you're thinking of now.
The word I'm thinking of now is the one that Neil uses, which is a completely non-cussy word. It's just the same as he uses enema to a woman who calls up, says, "You should go take an enema." It's just revolting.
What Neil is doing is satire. It's parody. It's shocking.
He's
use the S word.
Right away, the audience is running because I don't know of anyone. Every time I say something, Neil, oh God, is he still on? And that's the only reason I found out he was still on is when I switched. I'm now back to WNWS, except on this time when Stan and
Randy, good.
Randy,
Oh God, help us! Poor W News is going to go off the air due to the fact that their listener is over here.
Well, listen, we appreciate you staying with us.
But it is boring when you have to resort to words like that. It's just dull.
Well, thanks.
Bye.
Thank you for an exciting call.
Well, Bill's out of it now, so let's go to this mobile. What line is this to? Mobile.
Hey, she's the one that listens to Al.
Yeah, that's right. You knew there was one of them.
Oh, Al, you're so wonderful. Let me tell you something, you old bag. You're not the kind of people they want here anyway. They have a program, WIOD, for people like that. And not only that, she's another one of those people that can quote chapter and verse of every show, but she never listens.
Yeah. He's top of her mind, and that's a very interesting thing.
It's incredible. She's
Well, what position did Al take on flag burning? I never figured that out. Was he Ferd or Guinness?
Yeah, but obviously,
somewhere in the middle.
obviously,
If you're listening, Al, give us a call.
Well, we do have a celebrity on the line. Marvin, who is this?
This is not a celebrity.
Oh, excuse me, sir. Go right ahead. Who's on the line?
Anyway, I just wanted to make that comment because I'm driving around. All of a sudden, I hear this old bag call. Oh, you're so wonderful, Stan and Randy and the Neil so nasty. It's that same old crap.
Neil so nasty. That's the next single from Two Live Crew.
That's right. And
I was listening to you and Neil Thursday, and he predicted that this would. Oh, Randy, you're so wonderful, and Neil.
No, it was a breath of fresh air. Excuse me.
Okay.
It wasn't so wonderful. And we had a couple of calls like that. Thanks. All right, we got to take this call. Celebrity. Better be a celebrity. Are you a celebrity?
I just called to, butt lick a little my boss,
Where are you? You were supposed to be on this show, and you're not here.
The only person that I listen to is Tanner in the morning. I don't even listen to my own show.
That's apparent.
I think you're doing a good job.
Off the radio, ladies and gentlemen.
He's got some public appearances
Cox,
just
you
coming from. And
Yeah,
I'd like to call up and promote a few of those,
Paid
if you don't mind.
Which car phone are you on, though?
Which car phone?
Yes.
He has
He was
83.
one on his belt, one in his hand, one in his ear. Isn't that
Hey,
true?
I think it's important to be as electronic as possible because
To be able to reach out and touch and feel your instrument.
Yeah, absolutely. And besides that, it's the only tax deduction we have left.
Oh, we were just having that little discussion off the air.
Anyway, I just called to say I'm listening, and I haven't heard anything important yet.
It is. I had to go sleep here for a while, but we're back to life. Cox, with you, you have infused us once again.
Listen, I just actually truthfully wanted to call and say, God, you guys are boring.
Really?
All right, goodbye.
We have an afternoon opening now between 2 and 6 on Power 96. Anybody need the job?
Exactly.
It
We'll
pays
just go
obscene
to
amounts of money.
Coconut Grove.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know how... Am I on the radio?
Yes, you are, sir.
Good. I don't know how I'm going to top the last few minutes. Hi, Stan.
How you doing?
How you doing, buddy? Cornelius. Miami. Listen, I don't know how to top all this. Huh?
Never mind. Go ahead.
Randy, I don't know you, but I'm enjoying it. Bottom line, and I don't know how I'm going to top
I say that to you, Randy.
And I love it. And I love
I was saying that to her just last night.
Randy,
I don't know you, but I'm enjoying it.
And I am too, sir.
Guys, give me my minute here. If they don't like it, turn it off. It's your basic sticks and stones, break your bones.
That words will never hurt me.
Works with Neil, works with the Two Live Crew, works with Nelson Mandela.
Remember in the 60s, 70s, the best thing an artist or a movie or a book an author could do was get it banned in Boston.
Yeah.
Great publicity. Hey, guys, I'm listening, and I'm having... You made my day.
Well, gosh, you're so easy. Thank you.
Okay. Stan, take care, buddy. I'm listening to you.
You're so easy. Let's go to Deerfield.
Hello.
Hello.
Randy.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, were you ever with a station called The Lady?
No.
Oh, God.
I remember that station. They used to talk about having orgasms and
Yeah, that's
bumper
right.
stickers.
We have an opening for a bisexual man from Dade to call. They swear to God they would do that.
That reminds me, Bill.
You.
Let me ask you something. With what kind of a...
I don't think we want to hear that. Say the truth. Let's go to Miami.
Hey. Hello.
Hello.
I'm on a car phone, sort of. I heard that old douchebag talking to you a few minutes ago, and I pulled off the road, and I'm at a payphone, but I'm still sitting in my car, so that's kind of a car phone.
That's cheating.
Those are the kind of car phones I sell.
Air conditioners on. Hey, I called because that lady talked to you guys Friday.
What lady?
That lady that was calling with the talk about Alice.
Right.
It's the same lady almost the same time last Friday, because I take lunch, I come out and turn my car on. And it was the same spiel.
Well, at least we know she's listening.
Same story, the same douchebag. She kept that word bothered her last week. I know you guys are inundated with calls, so you don't remember them all, but she irritated me then, and she irritates me today.
Irritation then and irritation now.
Isn't there a cream you can use for that?
Yeah, but...
Over the counter, yeah.
Hey, Randy.
Redwood sells it sometime out of the back of his trailer.
There you go.
Randy.
What?
I really enjoyed you on QAM. Used to listen to you every morning, and I don't know where you're going to end up, but,
well, I'm here for now.
Yeah, here for now and gone for later. Anyway, That's all I got to say. It's kind of reporting on the old hag.
Well, thanks.
Same one from last week.
Hey, get another phone, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm running up my phone bill maybe in this car phone. I'll talk to you guys
Be sure to put it back before you pull off. I may need to use
Sounds
that
like the
phone.
old drive-ins. Remember, you used to put that thing on the window and drive away? Drive away and the whole window would come out? Did that twice. Hate to say I'm an idiot, but I did that twice. 12:40. We got some date lines open here, folks. The number is 751-9463. Broward 524 WIOD, and the Palm Beach is 655 WIOD. We're here with Stan Major and Bill Tanner and Mark Moseley and a cast of thousands and Shirl V.
Tanner, what do you hear from Sonny Fox? Well, I haven't. I heard that he is no longer with that station in Dallas, that he left to go and work on.
Is he back in town?
Well, I don't know. I kind of thought he might show up at Waxy, and then Budell got that job. There was talk about that.
Doesn't he work for a syndicated show now or something? I was
Sonny?
reading R&R. Yeah, that Sonny was going to work with someone else on a syndicated show.
Well, Sonny's with us now.
You don't know your own name.
Mark, how many voices do you do?
I don't know. Millions. What we like to do, I love to on the air, is throw him a curve when he's all prepared to do Tyrone and say, well, Redwood! The truth comes out.
Yeah. Are you a stand-up comic also?
Yes, to a degree, yeah.
What degree? Do you go out in public?
It's a third-degree black belt stand-up.
I used to do it on a regular basis, and now I'm in the process of getting back into it.
It's got accustomed to eating is what it is.
Well, sleeping is also important, because, when you work, when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's very hard to be out in the comedy club until 1 o'clock.
How did you learn to do voices? I mean, he does the best voices. G. Michael does great voices,
I know he
too,
does.
but...
In fact, he had a comment last night. I heard you called him. He said, I've been doing voices for 20 years, and everybody's calling up and asking about Mark.
Yeah.
So he was laughing about that.
Yeah, that's true.
So what do? Do you hear a voice and stand in front of a mirror and...
No, not so much standing in front of the mirror. Do a lot of practicing and just experimenting when I'm driving in the car. I'll very rarely do I set my mind towards saying, okay, I'm going to learn how to do this person. It just sort of happens. A lot of the impressions are learned by watching other impressionists.
We don't do...
I picked up doing Bush from Dana Carvey on Saturday Night Live.
Mm-hmm. We don't do as... Mark doesn't do. It's not we. I don't do any of them. But Mark doesn't do as many impressions these days as he does his own characters. He's come up with these two really big hit characters, which are Tyrone, and everybody knows a Tyrone, some kind of a con man, and Redwood, everybody knows, your favorite redneck.
There you go. Beer drinker.
Warm beer.
Warm beer.
Pembroke Pines, you're on the air.
Hello. Stan, glad to hear you back on the air.
Thank you.
Well, people were talking about what was really the nexus of this deal. Well, I know you can't talk about it, but that's the problem, is you guys can't talk about it either, what's going on.
What's going on, sir?
With the Two Live Crew. I mean, if you want to know how the thing all started, well, it started with people that Stan and Neil can't talk about. And the censorship started with them.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's spread to Two Live Crew, and who knows where these guys are going to stop.
That's why I made the statement that I made a while ago, that there needs to be somebody to look over the shoulder of people who get involved in this. These are fanatical people.
Absolutely.
Okay, and there has to be, and you can't rely on the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel to do it. You can't rely on anybody else. It's got to be somebody who wants to support the First Amendment and the right of people to be as filthy as they want to be, and to be rejected for being filthy or to be bought,
It's a free marketplace out there.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it's all about.
And that's the problem, is that the marketplace is being taken away from us by a couple of people. You got one talk show host on another station. He sits on a couple of phone books. He can reach the microphone and spews his hate every weekend. And then you got this other guy that nobody can talk about, and they're out there running the morals for everybody else. And it's just...
Well, it's... I think it's just fascinating that...
Stop it.
That we don't see an expose of what's really happening in either the Herald or the Sun Sentinel, which are the two primary newspapers. We're more likely to see it in something like the St. Pete Times.
Well, the New Times did a story on him.
The new time.
And told some
Yeah, just recently.
So what is that little whining in the
Are
background?
you killing your dog?
No, my daughter's she's throwing her lunch everywhere because I'm not paying attention to her when I'm talking to you guys. I hope my wife isn't listening at work so she knows what I'm doing, you know.
Así es la vida. Well, we've all been through that.
Well, sir, go feed your daughter, huh?
All right, well, take care, Stan. Play Smoke Gets in Your Eyes sometime.
All right.
All right, bye.
Smoke gets in your
The
eyes.
gentleman
Brian Ferry.
of which you can only allude should really, I think, be aware of the fact that he has made himself a public figure, and therefore has to live with the fact that he can be criticized.
Well,
read
he'll
my
be at
lips.
your house.
Ain't gonna happen.
No, it's not. And I'll tell you the best way to retaliate against any kind of fanaticism is out in the open, and is with other people who you've got to get these people fired up. Okay, I'm not in a position to go out and lead a parade. Okay, and say that this particular organization or that particular person is doing what they're doing. It takes somebody with a lot more time than I've got on my hands, but it takes a lot of work. It's a full-time job.
It's coming up to 12:46. I've got to tell you about shells now, Bill Tanner.
All right, we'll listen.
It's Tuesday.
WIOD.
What a crew we have here today. Bill Tanner, Mark Moseley, Shirl V from Power 96, and Stan Major and I sitting in for the vacationing Neil Rogers. We were just talking about Howard Stern from up in New York.
That's an interesting situation because he's got... the people in corporate are absolutely behind him, and that's what it really takes.
They're making lots of money with him, aren't they?
That's what it takes.
Sure, it does take that, and I think it always has taken that, because I don't know if people understand that performing on any medium, but radio is true and television, it's a fragile, thin thing. I mean, you can sling hash at the diner or work at the Kmart store or be an executive for IBM, and I don't think there's as much of your own personal being, your soul, that's as bared to the public as there is with performing, whether you see the audience or don't see the audience. And you need mentors in management. I know I have not, I mean, it appears that I've just been here since the end, but I've always had a tough time in my career. And I treasure and value, and I know he's not listening because his wife is having a baby, so I can talk about him. I treasure and value so my relationship with the guy that owns and runs our radio station now, because he brings out the performer in us. He understands what the business is all about. He's forever saying, let these people who are not broadcasting get out of the business. They have no business in it.
You've nurtured a lot of people, though.
Yeah, but it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy. Cox will tell you that. And
one of the things, Bill, and let me just talk about...
It isn't supposed to be easy, though,
Let me talk about him for just a second.
One of the things about him is he's very good with words. I'm talking about Bill Tanner now. He's very good with words. He's very good with diplomacy, and he's very good with telling you exactly how he feels. No beating around the bush, none of this game playing where you go, well, he said he feels this way, but does he really feel this way? When you walk out of the room from when he's told you something, you know how, and that's very refreshing. It's very rare in this business, and that's what makes it such a pleasure and a lot easier to work.
Well, I've known a couple of people that have worked with you, for you, and the fact you were talking about a mentor before. It's very important in this business.
Boy, it is.
And they have singled you out as being very important to them in their careers.
I'm proudest of people who to me, it is a great thrill to hear a great performer performing great. I mean, however cliche-ish that sounds, when Mark is on and just being and cracking us up, when you hear you guys doing a great show, when you hear Neil being funny. I heard Neil one day just sitting there doing the bit where he eats his sandwich and goes down the phones line, and we've all been there, you know, trying to eat your lunch, and somebody's going, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You just go down the phone lines. It was so funny. It was a crack-up. I get such a charge. I mean, I can have all the P&L sheets and stuff in front of me and dealing with the thing from a management side, but it is a performing medium, and that's what I get off on. And I try to infuse that sense of excitement and creativity and performance in the people that work with me. And to me, the great thrill of it all is tuning in and hearing Cox just tear it up on the radio, or anybody that...
The Madam works at Y100 now. She's up in New York.
And
super talented.
And I must tell you that she called me the other day, and she wanted to talk to me about the job that Shirl got. because we're, to me that's a great pleasure to have someone who's gone as far as she has say, well, I'd like to talk about coming and doing
back,
all over
coming back
again.
home, yeah. Well, let's take this mobile call here. He's been hanging on for a while. Are you there, mobile?
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, say something.
I just got a real complaint with your show there yesterday. You making light of the situation over in Iran, and yet today you're talking about how upset you are with Nelson Mandela if he gets this money and he's going to spend it on arms and everything, and that might lead to killing and everything. I see some real contradiction there, real hypocrisy. You're so, like I said, you're so unconcerned, made so light of the Iran situation. Yeah, on the other hand, you're worried about deaths that may or may not occur, selling of arms or whatever.
Well, Stan, why did we want to drop that bomb yesterday?
Why not? You're right. But nobody said that I have to be the other way. Nobody said I had to be logical and rational. When it comes to the Iranians, man, I am totally irrational. I think that we should have gone into the embassy like 24 hours after it was taken. And I still regret the fact that Carter just sat on his hands. But he did that with a Muriel boat lift, too. He sat on his hands and waited around. And it's like he had to have so much advice for so long a period of time.
If we knew, here's an interesting point. I wonder if we knew then, in terms of how long those hostages were going to be kept and what they would be put through. If we knew then what we know now, would we have done that?
I don't know. It's hard to gauge what a Jimmy Carter would have done. Yeah. After all, here's a man who said that being president of the United States was not going to be any more difficult than being governor of Georgia.
Yeah, well, he was wrong.
So I knew we were in trouble when he said that.
Wrong. Sir, are you still there?
Yeah, well, I just have a problem with the fact, if some other country wants to act like animals, certainly we didn't condemn the beeline.
It's a very emotional issue, sir.
Well, I understand that.
Stan's a very emotional man.
Yeah, didn't you see the scenes on the network news last night of them burning the American flag and screaming the same old crap that they've been
we burn the flag
screaming?
over here. To me, we're burning our own flag over here. What the hell's the difference? It's just a,
little different. I want the freedom to be able to do that, okay? If I want to burn my own flag, that's all right. When somebody else burns it, I get bent out.
Well, he's got a good point, too. Women and children. Humanitarian reasons. You don't drop the bomb.
Governments are the problems, usually not the people.
Right. In most cases. Thanks for calling. What do we have here? Pembroke Pines, you on the air?
People in the embassy and the hostages that are held have families, too.
Good morning, folks, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning. Got to make it fast. I'm coming up to the news.
Okay, first of all, Sonny Fox spy report / rumor. WPLJ, New York.
Oh, that would be nice.
That would be nice. You'd last there approximately 90 days maximum.
The whole station may not last much longer than that.
That station is the second biggest toilet in the country, and I won't say which one, but I will
like
say...
Mr. Radio here, doesn't it?
I'm sorry?
I got to run. I got the news coming up. Thanks for calling. How rude of me, huh?
And when you got to go, you got to go?
You got to go. I got to go. I got to take a break. Well, we're into the 1 to 2 hour. This is a big hour.
Moseley leave some good stuff, Marvin? Ah, very good. Isn't
that? Huh?
See, every time. See, that's the only reason you book these guys on the show, because Moseley brings this material over.
Steal their material.
Half the material in Neil's cart rack is from Moseley.
And we'll take more too.
Dave,
I've got to start my own cart rack here too.
That's it. The price is right. Right.
The price is real right. Well, we're back again. Mindy Frumkes. Horrible name, I know, but
Change
Leo.
that last name, Mindy.
I wanted to, but Tanner wouldn't let me. He didn't want me to.
Smith, Jones.
I know, Douglas.
I
Mindy Douglas.
I heard Larry King do the same thing with Jerry Seinfeld. He was doing a talk show, and Jerry was his guest, and said, "That's a terrible name. Let's change it. Steinfeld, maybe, but not Seinfeld." He said, "Hey, that's my name. What can you do?"
I was Mindy Douglas for years. I was Mindy Douglas my first 2 years, or my first year and a half of radio. When I moved to Miami and I started working at Power 96, Tanner hired me, and he said, "Okay, so Mindy Douglas is a nice name, but what's your real name?" And I said, "Frumkes." And he died laughing on the spot. He said, "That's you. You know, you're funny and you've got personality, and Frumkes is it."
Frumkes
you look like a Frumkes.
Oh,
really
thanks, Stan. Gee, you know, no one looks like Dominique.
Hot for 105. Mindy and Malo.
Yeah, right.
In the morning. Yep.
And hot is still hot.
Hot and still hot and staying hot. Very hot. We just plan to keep it going. So, doing very well.
Are you playing 2 Live Crew?
Yes, we're still playing Two Live Crew.
The clean version, of course.
The clean version. I don't think we ever played the dirty version.
Anybody did either.
Yeah, I know.
You know what's so amazing to me, and I brought this article in, it was in, what is it, People magazine with Madonna and Warren on the cover.
Yes.
Somebody actually listened to the Two Live Crew version, Me So Horny, the X-rated version, to tell us that there were 226 uses of the word F, the F word, but somebody actually went through this
And counted it.
87 descriptions of oral sex, 1 mention of incest, and it goes on and on and on, listing what was mentioned and how many times.
Too bad they can't just index the record to the people who are so interested and go right to the oral sex mentions or whatever they like.
Exactly right. Well, Mindy's here. We're going to talk about Two Live Crew and whatever else we can figure out to talk to.
But don't you think it's a little overkill on the F word?
Major. Oh, it's overkill and all. Major overkill.
Definitely.
Major overkill.
When they do their live gig, do they do that much, or do they tone it down a little bit?
Their live gig is extremely live, and it's very live, and it's just what you'd expect and more.
It's the same thing.
The performances in Hollywood and at Club New was just after they were banned, so to speak. So Navarro was a major portion of their show.
Yes, he was. They got people quite excited.
There was a cheer going in the audience.
You know, it's amazing how Broward County has become the Boston of the 1990s. It's no longer banned in Boston now; it's banned in Broward.
Banned in Broward. It's true, and it's not the reputation that I've lived in South Florida most of my life, and it certainly isn't the reputation that I would like us to have. I know all this. I was listening to you all earlier, talking with Mark and Bill and Cheryl, and I love South Florida, and it's not the reputation that I want for our community. We have such a great chance here to be in the forefront of so many things. We're not New York and we're not Los Angeles, but you don't have to be. You know, we have a lot of wonderful things, a lot of exciting cultural events going on here. Why do we have to have such censorship going on?
Oh, wait till Nick and his buddies start checking out the bathing suits on the beach.
Oh, the G-string.
To see whether or not you've got enough.
You know, Jack Boyle from Cellar Door had a really good quote in the newspaper when all this was coming out. He said, you know, I've been in the concert business a long time, and I can understand some concerts being banned in the South, some portions of the South, the Deep South, but never did I think it would happen in Broward County.
You know, Bobby Brown was arrested in a part of Georgia for doing one of his very sexual dances to one of his songs, you know, a couple of months back. And it's happening, you know, it's happening more and more frequently. And hey, folks, if you're scared about the Two Live Crew, there's more of this coming.
There's more to come.
Not more of the music, but more of the banning.
Well, what about, if you want to get into it, Elvis was only shot from the waist up on Ed Sullivan. Jim Morrison,
that
how many
was
times
so
was
long
he,
ago.
Right, but how many times was Jim Morrison pulled off of the stage?
Many times.
Well, like Tanner said, the pendulum swings, and now it's time to go. We went through the whole generation with spit on, or worse, and things were loose and free. Free love. Remember the free love generation?
I was too young for that.
Me too. Well,
Come on, you two both went through it. Admit it, okay?
You know, you look back at old reruns of I Love Lucy. On I Love Lucy, Ricky and Lucy couldn't even sleep in the same bed.
She couldn't mention the word pregnant.
That's
either.
right. That's right.
She couldn't mention that word.
And the old pendulum is starting to swing back again, friends.
But doesn't it also, the other extent of that is, don't things go in full circle?
Oh, absolutely. But how long is it going to be then before we go through the cycle?
The thing.
Again?
I don't know.
But the problem is that in some ways it's not a terrible thing that, I mean, the AIDS crisis, for example, has brought back monogamy and relationships, and people cannot be as into casual sex, and they can't be as unconcerned about their sexual health. So relationships are more in style. Big weddings are coming back. You know, that's not necessarily bad. That's a healthy thing, perhaps. But when it affects everything else, you know, that's something that's very difficult to reverse too. It's frightening.
Very full one-piece bathing suits are coming back.
Oh boy,
from the 40s.
You know, I saw Norma Kamali's new line, and they really are back.
I saw that also. We've got 2 lines open here in Dade, so call us 751-9463, a line in Broward, 524 WIOD. Let's take a call here. Got a mobile line. You there, Mobile?
Yes, I am. How you doing?
Fine. How are you?
Well, I'm visiting from Virginia, and every time I get down here, about 14 weeks out of the year, I try to listen to your shows. So it's always kind of interesting to see the different personalities change. It's kind of like, you know, roll-a-thon or something. Anyway, I'd like to talk about this Nelson Mandela thing. You know, in the past, I would have been I don't know if I'd say I was a big fan like it was a rock and roll thing, but certainly I would appreciate anybody who's gone through what Nelson Mandela's gone through. But when he's come out with all this jazz about is a vowed communist, being a supporter of Gaddafi and Castro and so forth. And you gotta wonder how in the world we could support such a thing. And quite frankly, in that regard, I would agree with y'all. I would certainly like to commend Miami on not welcoming him on an official basis. Certainly as a visitor they should. And I'm somewhat embarrassed that we would receive him as the third civilian, basically, to make a statement before Congress. I just think that's not appropriate for an avowed communist. And inasmuch that the communist world is changing, and even the own Communist Party is turning coat on our own party. Look at what Gorbachev has done. I think that to support Nelson Mandela is not the right thing to do. And I appreciate your comment.
Okay, sir. Let me get out of that line because he's fading out. I think a lot of it has to do with what Nelson Mandela went through, which is why they're holding him in such reverence. And I understand this caller's point of view, but I've got to say one thing. I'm not thrilled. Yeah, believe me, I do not support the PLO, and I do not support Castro. I'm very, very anti-PLO, anti-Castro. But I appreciate that there's a big segment of our community, black, white, and Latin, who do respect Nelson Mandela. And I don't know if I am thrilled that there will be no official welcome. I understand that we don't have a hero in Nelson Mandela who's perfect. He does support certain people who are very volatile, who are negative in many respects. Who are supporting his cause. When, in the paper this morning, Florida, we still have millions of dollars in businesses that invest in South Florida. Am I proud of that? No. I am absolutely. That are supporting South Africa, exactly. And I'm not proud of that at all. Are we going to have, perfect pagan statues that we can put up and respect and that will be perfect? None of us are. And Nelson Mandela certainly isn't, but he did go through something very important. I think that it's kind of a shame that South Florida isn't welcoming Nelson Mandela in any official capacity. We're the only one in the whole tour.
You got to separate the politics from this kind of thing. And I was kind of shocked. Well, then again, I guess I wasn't, to see that Mayor Suarez threw in real quick on this so-called thing, the statement that they put out. I mean, here's the mayor of Miami who, not too long ago, wanted to run for governor, was thinking about running for governor. And so he obviously
gets a lot of national press.
Yeah, and he has political ambitions that go beyond being the mayor, and yet he looks like a Havana city councilman, by making this kind of statement. And I don't understand it. These people under Batista, if you go back, Batista had the worst regime, just full of crooks and just all kinds of right-wing dictatorship type crap that was going on. And it seems like the Cubans can only settle for one extreme on the left or one extreme on the right. And they're now in a country where we don't have an extreme on the left or we don't have an extreme on the right. And they should realize that a Mandela has a right to come here and speak. Just as they have a right to demonstrate against his appearance here. That's what this country is all about.
It is the same exact problem that is splitting apart South Florida, that is causing all the racial tension and the ethnic tension that we feel it explodes. He does have the right to come here and say whatever he wants to say.
You don't need to go
see or not to go. Right, exactly.
It's like the CDs you don't need to buy, the movies you don't need to watch, the strip shows you don't need to go to.
That's right. It's 1:16 at 610 WIOD. We'll be back after this.
Scientists have warned us that as women, we face some pretty serious risks. We are vulnerable to osteoporosis, the painful, debilitating loss of bone tissue. To date, one of the only recommended treatments has been calcium supplementation. Unfortunately, the only calcium previously available had uncomfortable, even unhealthy side effects. And some of those supplements couldn't even be absorbed by the body. Now, thankfully, there is good news. Now, thankfully, there is Citracal. Citracal is the first brand of calcium citrate in the United States. Research shows that's the kind of calcium effective in the fight against osteoporosis. Not all calcium supplements are alike. Citracal is absorbed over 2 times better than other calcium supplements. Citracal does not cause stomach upset or bloating. And because Citracal is half the size of other calcium products, it's very easy to take. Citracal by Mission Pharmacal. Thankfully, some very good news for women.
You were right on the ball on that one, Marvin.
Hi, Marvin.
Mindy Frumkes is here from Hot 105. We're sort of continuing our conversations.
I think it's amazing to talk to you two about getting up at 4 in the morning.
Two babes in broadcasting.
What it's like, what kind of lifestyle.
No life. You have no life.
You know, I could never see doing anything else because it's really, every day is different. You talk to amazing people, you meet amazing people, but the one thing that really sucks about morning shows is getting up at 4:10 in the morning. I'm not happy when the alarm goes off.
Oh, boy, I had 2 alarms going off just in case because I was so paranoid that I wouldn't miss it.
I think I was just telling you out in the hallway, Stan, you'll appreciate this, that the few mornings of my life that I've overslept until 5:30, which is when our show begins at Hot 105, you know, Mala will call me and say, "Are you coming in?" And believe me, Keith, this has only happened once. I'll wake up at 5:30 and be there, you know, at 5:50 because you just throw on anything and get in there. But it's amazing. I feel like $1 million that day. I mean, I'm rested. I look fresh. No bags, no fine lines, no creases. I'm ready to go.
That's the thing. The bags are waking up.
I have more eye cream than the Chanel cream is.
I understand that. Let's take another call here. We got a mobile? No, we lost him. No, he's back again. Mobile.
Yes, sir. Randy, how are you?
Fine.
Okay, I was listening all this about this Mandela thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, at least, I mean, you people should encourage this guy, and, this guy is not talking with 2 or 3 mouths or 2 or 3 tongues in his mouth. He is saying whatever he believes in, and if he is a politician like Hirschfeld, like Alex Dowd up here, which are planning not to welcome him, I think that's a good thing because he should not be welcomed by these crooks anyway, because these people have no character. You can buy them, you know,
buy them and sell them.
Yeah, you can buy them if you have the right price and your right money in your pocket. And I think the guy, whatever he is, he may not, go with us.
But he has the right to talk.
Castro thing and all this thing. But whatever he felt like, he said it. And although he's going to take a loss of not getting that much money if he, kept it to himself. So.
Well, I think a lot of the reason he's coming down here, it is money, but it's not money. It's also the spirit of getting people riled up to put down apartheid.
Right.
Plus, what a figure.
And if you go a little bit back, you will see Yitzhak Shamir has the same character. He was a terrorist also. He bombed so many hotels and all that. But now he's the leader, and he is, he's the big thing. And Arafat is a terrorist, although they look the same. And if Shamir goes in his bathroom, takes his clothes out, he will look I think he will look more terrorist than Arafat is. So, if you read newspaper and you go back and read behind the lines, you see all these people. They are the same faces, same characters, but different time they talk different.
Well, thank you.
Thank you much.
Terminology is so interesting because the Nicaraguans would claim that the Contras were terrorists. We claim they're freedom fighters.
Mm-hmm.
See?
We all have our own perspective.
That's it.
It's all about opening up a dialogue, and if you fight to keep a dialogue closed, you learn nothing, and you become a complete intellectual zero, and you live in a very limited, blind world.
There's one thing I'll say about the Mandelas. They tell you where they stand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they didn't come over here and pull any punches. He's rather restrained, I think.
I think people were surprised, though. I think they were taken by surprise by a lot of his comments.
You know why? Because the news media has played him up as
the next, Martin Luther King Jr.
specific kind of person. And when Winnie Mandela came over here and was put on the spot about her political beliefs, and she came out with this revolutionary rhetoric, it didn't get that much play in this country. So people aren't I don't think if you took a man on the street poll and asked the question, is Mandela's wife an avowed and outspoken revolutionary communist, people would look at you and say, first of all, they'd say, who's she?
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, they'd say, well, I don't know. So I don't think the American public is really informed.
And she's really toned down her comments
a lot.
If any she makes
a lot
during this whole tour. Let's take another call here from Hollywood. Good morning. Good
Morning.
afternoon. What time is it? Good afternoon.
How you doing?
Fine.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you about this Mandela coming down here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a ex-Vietnam vet,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't believe that our government should have welcomed him with open arms in front of our Congress this morning. I think the man's a terrorist. I think he's going to use the money to go back and destroy the nation.
Oh, I agree with you there. He's definitely going to use the money for an amount of arms.
Absolutely, and I think it's going to cause more bloodshed and more harm. I think our government could have done much more for him rather than handing him $10 million.
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. I don't know the answer, though.
I don't really know what the answer is either, but I don't think that as a people we should open our arms to everybody just because we happen to embrace one view that they might hold. You have to look at the whole picture and say, hey, you know, this man has a good point, but he has several bad points, so what are we going to do?
Well, I think, again, as Stan was just mentioning before, we're just now seeing those sort of, I don't want to call them bad points, but getting perspectives that we didn't get before. When he first came over here, everything was hearts and flowers. Everything was wonderful. Everything was terrific. And the more he spoke, the more you listened, you began to realize there were a couple of chinks in the armor. There were a couple of questions that people started to raise.
Oh,
we
yeah.
didn't know that before.
Absolutely, I didn't either. I thought that this man was a good role model
Well, that's because the media
for his people, and I think
But did the media know, though?
I don't really know,
people in
but
the
we
media
turn to the media for information.
But so many people didn't really, they knew that there was apartheid in South Africa, but they didn't realize what was going on. People don't read inside of the Miami Herald and the Sun Sentinel that deeply, and they don't know and they don't care.
And they don't read the New York Times, the Washington Post.
I understand that, and I agree with that 100%, but still, the majority of the people in this nation depend upon all the media, the radio, the TV,
But they're reading
movies, or
People
whatever.
magazine and TV guides, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. I
That's
agree
where
with
we get our education.
I
As I speak, what magazine does Randy have in front of her?
That's right. Madonna and Warren on the Madonna and Warren issue.
I agree 100%. I think the lines of communication ought to be left open, but I don't think that when a person's not a head of state or a head of a government, I don't think that he should have been welcomed the way that he has. And I don't
But
think when
he
makes
deserves the platform, don't you? You wouldn't shut him up, right?
I would absolutely not shut him up. He's got the right to speak. But I don't think that he should be entitled to the same privileges or benefits that a head of state receives. This man's not a head of state.
Mm-hmm. I agree
And
with
he
you.
is
You have a good
certainly,
point there.
I heard you commenting earlier that he is certainly not a Martin Luther King, and I agree with that 1,000%. Because Martin Luther King would have never agreed with the violence of this man.
Again, he's been in a time warp for 27 years.
And if you'd been looking at from the inside of barred windows, your perspective may be different.
Yeah,
I think he himself was surprised by the reaction that he's getting.
Oh, I
to a
don't
lot
doubt
of his
that. I don't
comments.
doubt that a bit. And I think probably a lot of the reaction is strictly because he is a black leader.
A black leader who supports Fidel, Muammar, and Yasser.
Absolutely, and I cannot condone that in any way, shape, or form, regardless of what he condones it for or what his beliefs are. Those people are terrorists. They've done a lot of evil things. We've done a lot of evil things. But we certainly aren't going to, two evils don't make a good.
Thanks.
You know, Randy, what I don't hear anyone talking about at all is there's this whole big flat. We're all talking about Nelson Mandela. Should we welcome him? Shouldn't we welcome him? What's going to happen? And once he leaves,
what's going to happen?
What's going to happen?
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Absolutely.
Unless people get involved, and that's the fight of the 80s and 90s, and not enough people do.
I agree with you.
Because it doesn't affect you personally.
Yeah.
Therefore, you're not going to do anything about it. I think his trip definitely will present an awareness, get people more educated, get people more riled up. Then maybe. I don't know how to end apartheid. I have no idea. And I haven't read anywhere anybody's version of how to do it either.
I don't
Nobody
know either.
knows.
It's a difficult problem, and it's a difficult situation to be in. But I think it's, again, going right back to where I started from, I think it's wrong that our government is acting like they're condoning the beliefs of this guy, whether our president gets on there and says we had a disagreement. You had a disagreement, but you handed the man $10 million a couple of months ago or a month ago.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I mean, that's my money. That's your money. That's all the taxpayers' money. That's not what our country believes in. I mean, we keep talking about we want to fight terrorism around the world and everything else, and then we're supporting it. I mean, for Christ's sakes, what about the IRA? Why are we giving those people such a hard time when they come over here to try and get funds for their fight?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Well, listen, sir, I got a break here, but I appreciate your call.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 1:29, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with more with Mindy Frumkes from Hot 105, Stan Major and I on News Talk Radio 610 WIOD. Thanks, Scott.
That's great.
It does get confusing. And yes, G. Michael will be on again tonight.
He's on tonight?
Oh, no, he's not on tonight. That's
baseball.
right. Baseball tonight, Yankees and Brewers at 7:35.
Who's playing? Yankees and Brewers, okay. You just said it. Yeah, I got it.
And Brewers, that, of course, is
I think you
after
should tell that
Sports
story that you told off the air. That's funny.
You like that story,
That's great.
You're talking about, England.
Yeah.
We were just talking about England. Mindy was telling us that she met some nice people there.
I met a fabulous guy over there.
A
as a matter of
fabulous,
fact, 3 years
fabulous
ago.
guy. And I was saying that I did some work for the BBC at one point in time and met some fabulous guys over there. But my name in England and New Zealand, I found out later when the white bread or the whip bread race was here.
Oh.
Randy means horny.
Oh, my.
So you couldn't really have a real good conversation or a relationship.
Wondering why people kept laughing at you.
Absolutely.
While your phone was ringing off.
I'd say, hi, I'm Randy, and they're
Don't call me, my name is Randy.
They were thrilled to see me, I'll tell you. So it really didn't work. I'm going to have to find another country that it really doesn't mean much. And they were appalled that my parents would name me that.
I love the name Randy for women. I think
They
it's
were
great.
absolutely appalled that someone would name a child horny. You know what I'm saying here? Let's take some phone calls. Let's see what
so
we have.
Randy.
Me so Randy. Hollywood. You say that?
How you guys doing?
Fine.
Yeah, listen, about Nelson Mandela and Windy Mandela.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, it's Winnie Mandela. I'm Mindy. She's Winnie.
Oh, Mindy
Right.
Mandela.
That's a new
I'm
one.
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, one thing, this might not be very popular to say, but I guess part of the reason that he is as popular as he is because of the fact that he was imprisoned for, 27 years?
27 years.
Right. And the fact that he's also black. And there's a tremendous amount of guilt here in this country about that.
I don't think we feel guilty for that, sir.
Well, not specifically that. But I think there's, it's still there. But the thing is, why him? Well, somebody pointed out the chief of the Zulu tribe. I'm not even going to try pronouncing his name.
Because he's not as visible.
Pardon?
He's not as visible, he's not as vocal,
and he's not as international.
Well, I guess so, but still, the point is, he heads up the tribe as well. I would think even though he's not as vocal, is just as important, if not as more important.
Absolutely, but he's been very low key compared to Nelson Mandela.
Now, you think that this country feels guilty? I don't think it's guilt at all.
Not very guilty.
Just even slightly.
Just slightly.
But the bottom line here is that you've got the African American population of this country with a very serious lack of role models. You've got a serious problem with the 18 to 34-year-old black male, and if there is an international figure who has put his life up to a very good cause and a very good reason, and something that many people can embrace, and
well, that's what they're embracing.
It's not guilt.
They're embracing the ideals, what he stood for, what he believes in. Unfortunately, when he speaks, more and more and more of his philosophy that we didn't know about is starting to come out.
Right,
that's what's starting to get people pretty uncomfortable.
And that's the important thing. Also, there's other things also going on in Africa that are probably just as important, I think, like the civil war in Ethiopia that nobody wants to talk about, it seems, where they use food primarily as a weapon, that is the government there. And nobody really says much about that at all. At least I haven't heard anything lately on it.
And you won't, sir.
Probably not.
And you won't.
Yeah.
It's not as
you'll see an occasional report on television.
Yeah, but that's it.
On PBS.
Yes,
McNeil Lair, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and that's about
it. But you see, it goes, if 50,000 people had been killed in an earthquake in India, it wouldn't have been news in this country. But it happened to happen in Iran.
I disagree with you.
I
really disagree with you. What about when Union Carbine exploded in Bhopal?
But that was an American company.
How many people? Yeah, but you can't.
See, that was an American company which could be sued.
It could be the degree of the incident. Like that earthquake was pretty big, and the number of people who were killed. But on the other hand, it was in Iran, and there is that
There's a lot of mixed feelings about that.
What it caused us to do is what some people are caused to do with Nelson Mandela. There is a definite problem with Iran. They embrace political views and have hated the United States for as long as anyone can remember. Yet these people are suffering injury. There's disease. There's pestilence. They're homeless.
Causes people to think, well, what do I do now?
They're
How do
still
I feel
people,
now?
but I don't like what they think. So what matters more, that they're people or that they embrace the Ayatollah?
I would imagine that most of those people that were in that region did not subscribe to the Ayatollah's beliefs completely. Like the flag burning that went on
I think their
recently,
biggest problem was just
think it was in Tehran.
surviving. But Stan feels very strongly about this, sir. And thank you for calling.
Just the same, like all Iranians don't feel the same way politically because some of them aren't even Iranian. I would imagine some of the people in that part of Iran aren't, Persian. But
I
that's a
think,
whole other-
again, their biggest concern in life is how do I get fed every day and how do I stay warm or whatever it is.
Keep my camel into the garage.
I think most of the politics in Iran is based roughly around Tehran. Okay, I'll let you guys go.
Well, thank you. Thank you for letting us go. Unfortunately, that's right. Government's action, a lot of people pay for it. In this case, Stan wants to drop the bomb, but...
Put them out of their misery. But I've wanted to do that for a long time.
Okay. Well, the earthquake doesn't really make a difference at this point in time. You wanted to do that forever.
Didn't take care
and
of
a lot
enough,
of people did also when the hostages were
when
taken.
the Ayatollah died, I celebrated. I popped a
Well,
cork.
so did they.
Oh,
They were
great.
jumping up and down.
I still think that what's happened over there, though, I mean, I feel for those people, and perhaps they didn't embrace what was
By the
going
way,
on.
you talk about a media made personality. How about the Ayatollah?
Well,
camping out in Paris.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody ever heard of him before the TV cameras caught him in Paris, and then, boy, he was suddenly on the
And he
networks
still
every
is
night.
visible, if that's the word. I mean, his doctrine is still quoted. He's still a major force.
Almost as
in
big
Iran.
as Jessica Hahn got. Just almost.
That's scary. Let's check out this mobile here. Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Stan and company. Question about Nelson Mandela and rock, and seems to me a lot of his
Nelson
publicity
Mandela and
image
rock?
started among the rock musicians, and there's
Where
no
the hell is that
surprise
going?
coming from that. I don't know. It's just
Hello?
a connection. I just wondered what you thought of that connection.
About Nelson Mandela and
Hello?
rock?
It's Nelson's new group that he's protesting. It's
Nelson
the
and
Rock
Winnie.
Group. Yes.
Goodbye, sir. We're not quite sure if you're listening either. Let's go to Cooper City. Hello, are you there?
Hello.
Hello?
I'm Paul McCartney.
Oh, my. They're all calling up.
They sure are. Paul called.
Paul, how do you feel about Mandela?
How do you feel about anything, Paul? 141 at 610 WIOD. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back more with Mindy from Hot 105. We're just schmoozing here.
What are we going to do tomorrow, by the way?
I don't know. What do you think?
Let's show up and see what happens.
Okay.
You
We
have
can
no
always-
big plans yet.
We can always
easy
take
enough.
a poll on the Mandelas.
What, whether or not they should come? Like it's really going to make a difference here? I don't know. I think that we should try to find a Nelson Mandela satin jacket.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be nice for $50, mind you.
You can get all your Mandela paraphernalia.
That's right.
You can get all of it.
I can get all of the buttons, what have you. Let's see. Let's take a line here. Mobile.
Hi, how you doing, Randy?
Fine. How are you?
Good. Stan, how are you?
Great.
Okay, listen, I have an opposing point of view. I disagree that I think they should have apartheid. I think that the reason that I disagree with that is because most of the people there are very animalistic and very underdeveloped. And I really think...
Have you got your sheets on, sir?
No, I'm not
You've
into
been
that.
burning your cross this morning.
I just want to give you an opposing view.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I really think that since the white people are so outnumbered, same way as the Jewish people, that they would be destroyed by the blacks who can't even get along with themselves there. And you know what? One of the major problems that they have over in South Africa is the fighting and the conflict within the tribes themselves.
Sounds like Israel.
No, that's not like Israel
No,
at all.
no, but
and
you're
I'm
right.
not
I understand
saying
what
that at
you're
all.
saying.
I'm not
Here's the
saying
thing: the white minority in the government has to make some changes because right now the world is focused on their situation. The question is, if they start to elect or to appoint black officials to the government, pretty soon they'll be elected out.
That's right.
The white minority will be
That's
gone.
my point. And then, therefore, they will be at the mercy of all the blacks. And I'm not saying it because they're black. Let's say they were Indians or Chinese, whatever
But, sir,
minority
you cannot ignore the majority in a country. You cannot ignore the majority.
even though that they're very underdeveloped and animalistic and that they would probably
So they'll
destroy
have to,
all the white...
education is a big key here. I understand your point, but you cannot, especially now, they cannot ignore the minority when there is such a world focus on them at this point in time.
I just really feel that, just like it's been said many times, that when you have a small group of people that are in power and you have a large group that aren't, you have to make some concessions. But if they're not ready mentally or in any other way, or they're going to be violent...
Well, I haven't heard this since George Wallace.
It sounds like you think that they're doing it for the good of the black South Africans. I mean, so they're suppressed. Are you going to keep them suppressed? I mean, that's ridiculous.
Until they get educated and grow up.
Well, you need to educate them. How can they govern a country without education? I don't know the situation over there.
He doesn't like me. He hung up.
Well, we don't like you either, but we won't hang up on you.
I like you, Stan. I've never met you and haven't formed a bad opinion yet.
Well, he's got an interesting point there, and you got to give him credit again. He's got the right to voice his opinion.
But the government there is not they don't have the policy of apartheid for the good of the people because they're not ready. Doesn't that sound nice? I'm not going to make you move out into your own apartment, Randy, until you're ready.
Right, exactly.
Well, geez,
we're not going to point you to we're not going to point you to the council until you're better educated.
That's ridiculous.
It's definitely for selfish, cruel reasons. They have treated the blacks so deplorably in South Africa, but now it has to change, and the question is how. How do they change it without more bloodshed? I mean, Nelson Mandela is not a non-violent man.
How do they change it without really wanting to?
Oh, they don't want to at all, but they have to.
They have to, so they better start getting used to the idea, because the world is changing. In the past year with the Berlin Wall, checkpoint, Charlie, things are happening. Whether you think they're good or they're bad, the world is changing.
And again, world focus is on them. So what do? I have no idea how to change it.
That's why I'm not in politics. We just talk about this guys on radio.
But something has to be done here. Let's take another call from Miami.
Good afternoon, folks. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good. I'm still trying to get over the mental picture of Yitzhak Shamir naked, but...
Work your way through it, sir. Work your way through it.
Better than Golda Meir naked.
Oh.
God. I'm constantly amazed and baffled by how uninformed people are. Nelson Mandela and the ANC have always professed to be of socialist leanings, for lack of a better word. I don't like to put terms on anybody, communist, socialist, whatever. They've always advocated the overthrow of the government in Pretoria by force if necessary. Mandela, when he was released, made speeches to that effect.
Why then the reaction? Why then the...
Because people, it's politically correct to feel that way now. See, this whole thing by the politicians, by these local mayors and other politicians who are up in arms about this, elections are coming up in November. These people are seizing on an issue. They're trying to buy some votes.
They think the public wants them to react to
Of course. They don't care. Morals have never stood in the way of getting people's votes in this country, especially. And I agree with Stan 100% on that. I mean, these guys will do anything, and they will sell anybody out for a vote. Our country has winked at civil rights abuses around the world forever, and whenever it was in their best interest, be it politically or monetarily to do so.
But let me ask you a question. If he had not stuck his foot in his mouth and made this statement about the PLO, Fidel Castro, etc., would we still be hearing the kind of calls we're getting? Would there still be the concern about the violence?
Probably not.
Potential violence?
Not
at all either.
Probably
That's fascinating, isn't it?
But, for people...
And also these politicians would have missed a good opportunity to seize on a non-issue.
And then you have all these people who are professing such great concern, perhaps the demagogues or what have you. I may be using that word incorrectly. You have all the people who are all of a sudden concerned now that Mandela's coming to Miami. Maki Mandela was here several months ago. I went to see her at Miami-Dade North. How many of these callers did? How many people are concerned enough about what's going on in the world that they have an opportunity to see? The daughter of a major leader who lived there, knows what's going on, has experienced it herself. to see her. I would say
Why should
1%
they? I mean, a lot of
any.
people don't vote.
Oh, absolutely.
People and politicians in particular are concerned with their own agendas and really.
So you think Suarez would have showed up to bask in the limelight?
Oh,
of
absolutely.
Mandela
Had it been politically correct
had he not
to do
added
so.
Fidel Castro?
Had it been politically correct to do so, he would have been right there with bells and keys and
And the key has not been molded, sir.
every other thing that he could get his grubby little paws on. Whatever it's going to take to get his constituency out to the voting booths.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where the bottom line lies in this whole thing, I believe.
Well,
Wouldn't
thank
it be interesting to find out whether our new Hispanic congresswoman attended the speech this morning?
Oh, I'm sure she didn't. And
oh boy!
I assume you folks read Robert Steinbeck's column in the Herald this morning.
Fabulous. I brought it with me in case you guys
It
didn't
was
read it.
excellent in case you didn't. And there's some other good things in the viewpoint section about this whole business.
I know. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Nice talking to you.
We'll have to see tomorrow if she did or not attend.
Be
A
interesting.
lot of people boycotted that. A lot of politicians did boycott that, and they were vocal. In fact, I can't remember. I kept hearing.
Donner or somebody from California was the
Didn't
one
hear
that they were
anything
using.
about Leighton. Didn't hear any voice bit on her.
But he was an idiot. See, there's so many. There's so many
He
members.
was an idiot.
No, this is a great thing. I used to, when I was in Germany in the army, we used to listen to Radio Moscow because it had good music, and I was always amazed that they were able to take voice cuts out of the United States Congress people who were serving, and use it to their particular to make a point with regard to Russia with their politics. And I had a discussion with that about a couple of friends, and they were smarter than I was at the time. They said, "Look, there's 400 and some members, and out of them, you're going to get all kinds of people." So this guy that they used the sound bites on yesterday, who was saying that it was he was using very strong language. Okay, you're not going to attend the speech. You don't think Mandela should have been given the invitation in the first place. Fine. You couch the language a little diplomatically, and you come out smelling like a rose. This guy comes out smelling like an idiot.
Hot 105 is broadcasting the speech live.
That's incredible.
9 a.m. Thursday.
That's a pretty bold
Now,
step.
did Isley make that decision?
He was part of the decision. I don't know actually who made the decision, but certainly, Keith is our program director.
I'm really amazed that they're going to do that.
We know that the TV stations will be broadcasting his whole visit. So forget your soap operas.
And the protests outside.
It is absolutely a world event, whether you like it or you don't, and it's important. And if people want to be informed and want to know what's going on and want to know what else he's going to say, then you listen to the speech or you go to it or you read it.
Well, you can't go to it. It's closed.
Right. You hear it then.
Again, we were talking before, Miami is the only leg of the trip. It's the shortest leg of the trip, and it's also the one where he's not reaching any people other than the ones in the convention.
Mm-hmm.
There is no open forum for him to address a crowd of people. And we had a couple of callers this morning that were going to make it a point to see if they could catch a glimpse of him or somehow be close to where he is.
Well, there's this rally afterwards at Gwen Cherry Park, and I hadn't heard at the station before I left whether or not he was actually going to make an appearance there or not, because he's got a very tight schedule, this and that. But I think that's one of the only ways people can see him, unless they see him coming in and leaving.
I don't think he'll be there. I saw his schedule. I was listed in the paper, and he's making the speech, and then out to the airport
In and out, huh?
and into Detroit tomorrow night.
Is he he's overnighting in Atlanta, and then he's coming down here, and then boom, right out?
That's what I think. We've got to take a break here, and we'll be back on News Talk Radio 610 WIOD. What?
Now, you didn't eat a donut this morning.
No, I didn't.
You realize that?
Well, is there one
Great
left?
self-restraint. 3.
Well, then I'll eat all 3.
No, I'm not going to have one. I'll pass. Believe me, I'd love to eat all 3 and knock you down and take them all.
Donuts are the
Stan's
worst
contribution
thing.
to the show was donuts this morning.
They're so good.
When you do on the morning shift, donuts are the worst possible.
Donuts and coffee used to kill me when I did morning shift.
I can't do
used to
coffee.
get heartburn.
I don't drink coffee. I can't drink coffee.
That was it.
I love donuts. I love everything that's bad for you. Just name it, and I like it.
Oh, we're almost closing up the 1 to 2 hour here. I'll take a couple of more calls, and then we're history.
Hey, Mindy, I met you once.
You did?
Yeah, you know Lynn Friedman?
Sure.
Yeah, I met you over at where she works one time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you sound just as good as you look.
Oh, well, thank you, sir.
Hey, Stan.
What?
Does he sound just as good as he looks, sir?
Hey, Stan, it's pretty hard for you to get a word in edgewise there with those 2 Jewish ladies, eh?
That's fine. They're
We
having
have such
a
a
good time.
bad reputation.
Let's call it
Not at all.
Let's call it 2 live Jews.
Oh, no.
Hey.
And Stan,
Hey.
Hey, no, just a little joke.
Yeah,
listen,
pretty little, sir.
You know that guy that called in about the rockers and Mandela and you cut him off? He was talking about Van Zandt and that whole Sun City thing.
Oh, okay.
But I guess after playing all that drivel you play, you forgot about real rock and roll, eh, Mindy?
Oh, well, we don't play drivel, sir.
At least he did it politely.
He tried.
At least he did it politely. And on that note, we've got Shane Thomas on the news coming up. We're going to say goodbye and see you again tomorrow. Don't forget tonight, the Yankees versus the Brewers at 7:35. And right after the news, Rick and Suds on News Talk Radio 610
Clean and shine.
WIOD.